Quad ball is a sport that integrates aspects from rugby, basketball, and dodgeball to create a fast-paced, mixed-gender game that features 7 players per side. Okay, so quad ball is played on a grass or turf field with 3 hoops of varying heights on each team's half. There's 4 balls in quad ball, 1 quaffle, and 3 blocks, all to play while on broom. If a player comes off broom at any point, they have to tag the center hoop on their team's half before resuming play. Alright, so there's a lot of different positions. The first 2 are chasers and keepers, known together as quaffle players. They use the quaffle as hoops. There are 3 chasers and there's 1 keeper per team, and they wear a green headband. The keeper is only different and they can't be interfered with in their team's keeper zone, which is an area around the hoops when they possess the quaffle. On offense, all 4 players move the quaffle by running and passing and shooting to attempt to score. A good goal can be scored from either side of the hoop, and it's worth 10 points. On defense, players can tackle each other, and we're talking full contact to prevent the other team from scoring. Beaters, distinguished by black headbands, use the bludgers, dodgeballs, in attempts to knock out the opposing team's players. Each team has 2 beaters at any given time.
And we're back a few minutes here before Game 2, and we're just going to talk real quick to CJ Carter about how Game 1 went. And I think one of the things that we were really focusing on when we were talking off screen a bit was the play of Andrew Steinberg. Steinberg, a young player, as we mentioned, from the Brown program. You are a member of the Boston Forge, unfortunately, out at the moment. But what have you kind of seen from Steinberg in terms of his development this summer?
Well, Steinberg, I think, has really bought into the program. You know, he came in a year after me on the team, rode the bench together on the practice squad, and it's really hard to buy into a system and become a team player when you know you're not going to play on the weekend. You're stuck behind 3 or 4 lines of starters, and that was the biggest hump for him the past couple of years is being a team player, buying in, listening to what the coaches are saying, and you've seen that step up. He saw an opportunity to become a team player, a role player with the recent retirements that Boston has had, and it was just about finding his spot. It was a mix of an Ian Skura or a Zach Doyle type of position. He's got the speed, but he's also got the hands, and we weren't sure if we wanted to put him in space and let him run and take people on one-on-one, or if we play him off ball, let him work with his hands, get airborne, as we saw in that last game, a couple perfectly timed one-touch finishes at the hoops. That's really where his bread and butter has been this year. That's where he has excelled, and that is where I look to see him continue to excel in a week coming up here.
Yeah, obviously a young player whose skills were never in question. I mean, made huge strides at Brown, was already on the USNTDA, really without ever playing many minutes for Boston. Obviously taking a big step here. Boston coming out with that kind of hybrid zone with the high press there. 2 at the hoops, 2 kind of in a mark, really pushing and looking for those resets. What did you see from that defense and kind of how successful it was there in Game 1?
Well, that defense, I think, first of all, got punched in the mouth early on. Like, if we're going to be honest, that 3-0 run that New York went on immediately was not fun for them. You could see there was no panic, though. There wasn't a need to call a timeout. There was just a, let's regroup here, let's resettle. And it's all about throwing New York different looks. I feel like New York at times can be overconfident on the ball. They have such individually talented, skilled players, Team USA players, people who should be on Team USA. And it can be almost like too difficult to get people touches on the ball. And I think Boston was all about making them run, outwork them, outpace them, deliver hits when they needed to. And I think that in the end game is what kind of broke New York towards the last when Boston could step on the gas there.
Awesome. Well, CJ, thanks so much for talking. We'll catch up with you before Game 3 as well. We're about to get started here in Game 2, though. We're just going to throw it to a quick break, and we'll be back with Game 2 action.
Quad ball is a sport that integrates aspects from rugby, basketball, and dodgeball to create a fast-paced, mixed-gender game that features 7 players per side. Okay, so quad ball is played on a grass or turf field with 3 hoops of varying heights on each team's half. There's 4 balls in quad ball, 1 quaffle, and 3 bludgers, and the players run with brooms between their legs and must complete all the play while on broom. If a player comes off broom at any point, they have to tag the center hoop on their team's half before resuming play. Alright, so there's a lot of different positions. The first 2 are chasers and keepers, known together as quaffle players.
And we are back here for Game 2 of New York-Boston. First game going the way of Boston. They're 1 game away from a series win, though that would not yet mean an East Division win. It could still mean a lot to be decided in Game 3, and in the completion of Game 3 in Boston, Washington, a suspended game that's going to be picked up in 2 weeks from now. I'm Ethan Sturm, along with Jack McGovern. Jack, what adjustments do you think New York might need to make in Game 2 to come back and grab one here?
Yeah, I'm interested to see if they match up the beater pair of Devin Lee and Tessa Mowens against Max Haveline and Lulu Shu during the seeker floor. So before the snitch comes out, we didn't see it a ton in Game 1, and Boston went on a run when Haveline and Shu were in the game. So I'm interested to see if New York throws out their very best beaters against the very best pair for the Forge.
Well, it's not to be right out of the gates here for sure. Devin Lee and Tessa Mullins will once again get the start, but it's a new beating pair into the game. Will Andrews and Serena Montero on the Boston side. Keepers are Mike Lee and Taylor Crawford. It looks like they're both going to run brooms up again. We'll go through the rest of the starting lineups in a second because we have brooms up. Crawford and Mike Lee running for the ball. Crawford coming up with it and looking to drive immediately. Fakes his shot to try to get someone in the air. Slips off of Lee. Puts it through 1-0 in favor of Boston right off the bat.
And Crawford kisses his bicep as he drives through Mike Lee, his former teammate, too strong from the new Forge chaser.
Yeah. You love to see it. Definitely a little bit of trash talk here from the short-term keeper here for Boston. John Jackson and Yanko, the top 2 chasers here. We already mentioned Mike Lee in the game at keeper. Molly Potter, the remaining quaffle player here. It's going to be Yanko with the ball up top. Zach Doyle in the game, and it's a pass to nobody. Taylor Crawford just picks up and goes the other way.
And Boston blitzing New York now in the early portion of Game 2.
Crawford just works off of a screen from Doyle, but can't make the wide open shot.
Oh, that's a big missed opportunity for the Forge. They're going to want that one back. Crawford was so close to putting the Forge up 2-0 early on.
And now John Jackson bringing the ball down. It was a 3-0 start for New York, which is to say they still lost that game, so they want to get another hot start, but so far it's been a lot of Boston, especially on that really wasted possession from Yanko. Devin Lee coming down, does not have bludger control. It remains in the hands of Montero and Andrews, both very fresh, having not played in Game 1.
Yeah, it's the new beating pair as we get an exchange.
Jackson still has the ball. Doyle stepping up. Jackson wants it himself, drives in the lane. All the bludgers are cleared. Jackson has been all but unstoppable in the lane today. This Boston team, not always the most physical. Jackson taking advantage.
Yeah, Jackson, nothing but determination here today. You heard him in the interview, point blank saying, "We win." He is so focused on delivering for the Titans here in Game 2.
Oh, and it's a bad pass there, but I believe it was tipped on the way out of bounds, which is why Boston got to keep it. Chris LeCombe, I think, is going to talk about it. It was New York with a really nice press. Serena Montero and Tessa Mullins took an exchange there, and it was pretty even, but it favored New York based on spot of the field. Yes, so it is going to be that pass was last touched by New York. It is going to go off out of bounds off New York. Yanko shaking his head. It does mean that Zach Doyle is going to get possession. As we mentioned, you can't be tackled while you're inbounding. You can either choose to walk across or pass across. Right now, all his passing options are very far away, though. A jump pass all the way up top, really nicely done by Doyle there. One step inside the half court is Ian Skura.
Yeah, Zach Doyle's got the arm for sure. Locates Skura with the pinpoint pass, a half-field pass.
Manhart over to Crawford. Bludger control is with the pair of Mullins and Lee. Mullins wins an exchange with Montero. and then wins one with Andrews. It's going to be a press opportunity if they choose to use it. Mullins is finally going to press out, and now Lee is going to try to press Skura.
Yeah, a little bit of a delayed recognition on the press for the New York Beaters, unable to force the turnover, although Lee fires now.
Yeah, and it's going to be Skura picking up the ball. Hoop zone here out of New York. I think the first time we're seeing that, we saw it from Boston game 1. First time we're seeing it all season. Coach Frigmanson said they prepped it for this series, and you would probably see it. Skura's looking to take advantage of it, though. Sorry, this Skura taking advantage of it, dunks it through, 2-1 Boston.
Yeah, it's a defense, the hoop zone, that is specifically designed to stop a player like Ian Skura and his shooting ability. But Skura shows that he can do more. He can drive and dunk over the defending players.
John Jackson bringing the ball down the right side. Taylor Crawford stepping up. Pass goes behind to Lee, pressed out by Ian Skura. Lee flips it up top to Jackson. Jackson's patient. Andrews looking to take an exchange with Lee. Lee wins that exchange. It's Bludger's on the ground, and Jackson's going to get a chance to drive. Gets it over to Lee. Lee trying to go by Skura. Big wrap by Skura. He slips out of it, but the wrap from Doyle is successful, and the loose ball Manhart comes out of nowhere, diving down on top of it.
Yeah, nice job from the Boston Forge to bring some physicality on the back end. It takes a lot to stop a player like Mike Lee behind the hoops, but the Forge able to do it, and they're going to recover the quaffle.
Yep. Ball is going to go to Crawford, who will walk it up. A 2-1 lead here for Boston. Bludger control with Donnelly and Tate, who've just subbed into the game for New York, up against Haveline and Shu. Once again, the pair dodges Devin Lee. Athena Mayer and Harry Greenhouse, half of that second line, and Andrew Steinberg as well. Steinberg gets it all the way behind, had 3 goals in game 1, zips one over to Greenhouse, back up to Skura. Skura just looks to go right to the hoop. Lee isn't there in time. Skura puts it through. 3-1 Boston.
And again, Skura takes advantage of the hoop zone defense as we get a fast break opportunity for New York here, maybe.
Yeah, Kay sitting deep in the zone on the weak side right now. It is going to be Yanko. Gets over to Potter, but her shot is knocked down by Skura confidently. And Boston just seems to have all the answers here early in game 2.
Yeah, and it's been impressive to see how Ian Skura has picked apart the hoop zone early. It was a defense that caused him some problems when he saw it earlier in the season against the Washington Admirals. Didn't quite know how to respond. It looks like he's been preparing to drive on a defense like this.
Yep. Mayer, Greenhouse, and Skura working up top. It is going to be Steinberg batting it down behind. Tate K is ignoring him. Tate K lost sight of the quaffle, but Steinberg's not able to produce. Blocked by Potter, but Steinberg does get the rebound, goes to Skura. Skura over to Greenhouse. Greenhouse, the jump shot, not really his thing, doesn't go. Loose on the ground. Steinberg gets there first. Now it's Skura. No answer there. Finally, Boston gets it, and Skura with the finger roll again and again right now from Boston.
Skura with the hat trick now in the early portion. New York coming the other way, though.
Yeah, Yanko, a much-needed goal in transition there for New York. Slows the bleeding. It was Haveline and Shu, I think, got a little bit too tied up in the beater game and allowed that no-Bludger opportunity. Greenhouse now with the ball. Nobody stepped up yet. Lee gets forced in the air. Greenhouse gets almost all the way to the hoop before firing one past Yanko, who's really not quite tall enough to defend that top hoop.
We've got end-to-end stuff here in East Boston. Harry Greenhouse, the pump fakes, just deadly for the Titans' hoop zone defense.
Yeah, and Max Haveline has the ball, forces a pass, and Yanko's just immediately beat. Boston is running the roost here. Going the other way, it's Fenning, end-to-end, there's no answer. Cupid is a second late, and that shot just goes wide. It is going to be New York ball. Finally, we can all breathe for a minute.
Yeah, big sigh of relief. I don't know how that one didn't quite make it through the hoops. Fenning so close, but so far for the Forge.
Yeah, but again, it was a lot like game 1 where Haveline and Shu took over the game for minutes on end. They got the better. It's the first time Tate K, coming back from injury, as we mentioned, looked a step slow. Max Haveline and Louis Shu were running circles around him.
Yeah, they're the most experienced beater pair in the sport, you could say. Championship pedigree, been a part of all 3 titles for the Boston Forge, and they're showing why here against the New York Titans.
Yeah, Kellen Cupid and Phil Kane now with the combo in to try to stem that bleeding. And also Leo Freed in the game for the first time. Over to Michael Johnston. Long floater to Lexi Rafa. Rafa gets hit hard by Fenning. Frank Minton, though, does pick up the pass, gets by Steinberg, zips a ball up top. I think we're going to get a stoppage. Yeah, Rafa's going to be down. We're just going to take a quick injury stoppage. Let's throw it back to the booth for a minute here. So, Jack, Boston obviously getting the best of New York here early in Game 2. 5-2 the score already. What have you seen from this Boston team out the gate?
Yeah, it's been Haveline and Shu just winning their exchanges, covering each other's backs. They work so well together, and they've created opportunities for Boston to get out and run. Also, in the half court, Ian Skura is just picking apart a defense that is designed to stop him. It's been really impressive to see him driving and finishing at the hoops.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, we've seen this hoop zone now come out from New York. I'm not sure it's the look that New York necessarily wanted because it has allowed so much space for for Boston to get up near the hoops. And New York, you know, they have a couple tall players, John Jackson, Leo Freed, but they don't have enough height to really guard all the hoops effectively. It's been kind of a dunk fest for Boston since they switched into it.
Yeah, it's a risky defense because it allows players to get ahead of steam and really gather their momentum coming in for a big dunk. And New York has been on the receiving end as Lexi Rafa gets up on her own power. It's been exciting to see early on how Boston has handled the hoop zone.
Yeah, and the injury timeout might give New York a chance to kind of settle down. It felt like things were going so quickly there that the game was just getting away from them incredibly, incredibly rapidly. Now they have a time to just talk a little bit as a team. You know, this is what we're going to do. Maybe get a little bit, maybe make a defensive change, get our feet under us. Don't push the pace out of control. Don't waste possessions, which we saw a little of in the early minutes. I remember Yanko throwing that pass, not to particularly to anybody on the first or second possession there. So New York's actually going to call their timeout immediately off of this, really highlighting just how important this moment is for them and the ability to turn the tides here.
Yeah, this is a young New York Titans team. I think we've forgotten that over the course of the year because they've played beyond their years coming out opening weekend and knocking off the Washington Admirals. But this is a team with new leadership. This is a team with new players in bigger roles. So I think that's why you're seeing them go to timeout here and really talk things over as they've fallen into a 3-goal deficit early on.
Yeah, and I'd like to see, you know, some of those veterans be the ones who kind of stem the bleeding here. We obviously didn't see Lindsey Morello for the first few minutes of that game. You know, John Jackson obviously has been on the field, but I also think they need a little bit more than they've gotten so far from Michael Lee, who's been one of their unsung heroes all season, who's been so important defensively and offensively. Offensively, some of the shots and opportunities just haven't been – they've been there. They just haven't gone his way. And then defensively, I just feel like he hasn't had the best physical day. A lot of people have slipped out of his tackles so far today.
Yeah, I think that's right. Lee is a player that you'd often see on offense in the spaces behind the hoops, just going to work, beating opposing defenders one-on-one. On defense, you'd see Lee as the point defender, the first point of attack player who steps up against the opposing offense, and he's typically made huge hits and been a real difference maker in those spots. But I think you're right. The Titans are going to need more from Mike Lee in Game 2.
Yep, so we're about to get started here again. Lindsey Morella, who I was just mentioning, one of those veterans who can kind of turn the tide, is the one who sub in for the injured Rafa. Minton on the field as well, along with Leo Freed and Michael Johnston. I believe Chris LeCompte is explaining that it will count as a reset before, but I think he might be about to tell us as well. Either way, it's just a loose ball on the ground that Leo Freed's going to be the first to get to. So that is going to be the reset, as we talked about. Freed over to Johnston. Harry Greenhouse steps out high. Johnson does get around, though. Looking to hit the lane. Finds Morello. Shu presses out to Morello. A nice pass over to Minton. Back to Johnson, but the pass isn't quite there again. And it's another turnover without a shooting opportunity and without even a beat or a tackle.
Yeah, the Titans won't like the result, but I think the process was a little better for New York. I like how they've forced Boston players to come out and defend them, as Kellen Cupid makes a big beat on Harry Greenhouse, and Frank Minson is running the other way now.
Yeah, Frank Minson organized that entire press himself. They trapped Fenning into a corner where they would have been able to push him out of bounds, forced the pass to Greenhouse. Kellen Cupid noted it instantly, makes the beat. Both Minson and Cupid from that NYU program that supplies this team in almost bigger amounts than any other team. I think Rutgers is the only college that can relatively match it. And they know each other well, and they really communicated well there on the pitch.
Yeah, Minson and Cupid, both utility players who've played both chaser and beater. They can help with the coordination between positions for the Titans.
Johnson does a good job drawing the beat of Collier, but then it is Dillman right there to make the second beat to force the turnover. Leo Freed's going to stay there and wrap up Athena Mayer, who fell on the ball just to stop the fast break, but still it's going to be another Boston stop.
Yeah, that's a smart play by Leo Freed just to prevent the opportunity for the Forge to run the other way. The Titans did have both beaters back, but anytime you can slow the Boston Forge, you're going to want to take that chance.
And meanwhile, they make Andrew Steinberg, who's been such a threat behind, run wind sprints there with an early beat. He's actually going to sub out of the game here for Peter Lawrence. Fenning with the ball on the right. Bringing it down. Freed marking loosely. Finally, Minson's going to step out, and Freed's going to fall back. Looks like more of a 2-2 look here from New York. And this time it's Phil Kane chasing down that loose ball. Morella has it. Nobody's in front of her. Morella has open space. The hoop was in front of her, and she tried the pass. It doesn't go, and Mintz has to slow it down. Back to Morella. Morella, too good of a player to make the same mistake twice. This time finishes through the near hoop, and New York is finally on the board again, 5-3.
Yeah, Morella makes up for the mistake. She's going to be glad that she got the opportunity. Otherwise, she would have been thinking about it all the next possession because that hoop was wide open for her on the fast break.
Yeah, Jordan Smiley checking in the game for the first time for Boston, another player from that Tufts program, passing back and forth with Ryan Fenning. Dillman leading them in. Cupid wraps Collier, but Collier gets back his ball, and that's a bad look from Fenning. Frank Minson jumps right into the passing lane.
Yeah, too close to Minson. Minson is a player who reads passing lanes so well, both on offense and defense, as he looks and finds Johnson.
Oh, but Fenning looks up to make for his mistake and jumps immediately on Johnson when he receives the pass in transition, forcing another turnover.
The physicality of Ryan Fenning around the hoops has been huge for the Boston Forge. He has played all over the field for Boston this season, but really showing that around the hoops he can be the biggest difference maker.
Smiley with the ball up top, being let in, goes back to Skura, back to Smiley. Nobody has stepped to Smiley. Now Leo Freed does. Looks to be more of a mark roll look again from New York, who's just literally rapidly rotating through their defenses. Peter Lawrence is going to take it back. Oh, Lawrence just goes back behind. The reset used with no pressure. A mistake there from the Middlebury grad.
Yeah, they have to be more aware of their surroundings and know where the half-pitch line is. A costly mistake for the Forge.
Skura looks for Beckman, but Phil Kane forces him out. CJ Jr., the other beater in for New York. Kane now is going to press up. Dillman on the far side, giving him that space. It's a pass to nobody in particular. Michael Johnson comes down with it. Boston now slowing on the offensive side, and New York looking to run. Johnson has Minson in front of him. Just says, I'll do it myself. Another product of the UT championship programs, knocks down a mid-range shot, makes it 5-4. University of Texas is the proudest program in this sport, the most titles, and Johnson, a product of that program, knocking one down there.
Yeah, what a pretty floater from Michael Johnston. And the New York Titans are now only one goal back. They've really come out of the timeout looking strong.
Yeah, 2-0 since that timeout. Zach Armentrout in the game for the first time, communicating with Leo Free on the near side of the 2-2 defense. CJ Jr. is going to knock Peter Lawrence out of the play there. Skura goes over to Smiley. Smiley looks at the lane, but Leo Freed is stepping up high. It's back to a hoop zone now. New York is switching multiple times within a play here. Mccready is the only bludger for Boston. They've had trouble getting bludger control back. As I say that, Kieran Collier takes one off Tess Mullins, her former coach over at Emerson. Ian Skura now has a driving lane, tries the shot. Armentrout that height that New York's been missing, they finally find it there in Arm Trading, who gets an arm up to the top hoop.
Yeah, denied at the top hoop. The height and strength of Zach Armon-Trading, denying Skura. Let's see if he can make a difference coming into the game for the Titans.
Yeah, Paguada in as well with John Jackson. Basically the largest line I think New York can put on the field here, along with Lindsey Morello, who might be their strongest player. So this team is tall and it is strong here, and they're looking to make a mark. They could even it up with a goal here, which would be a 3-0 run. Morello has the ball up top. Armor Trading coming out to be an option, but it seems like they're waiting for the beating game to do something against Bludger Control. Bolitsky and Mccready right under their hoops with a hoop zone from Boston. Pass goes up and down, and then back again. Morello now has it on the far side. Zips one that is knocked down by Beckman and stays in bounds, so he's able to pick it up.
Yeah, and Erin Mccready, the beater for the Boston Forge, all over the play, forces the turnover.
And then she forces a wide open area, but it's a moment of rare mistake from Ian Skura. Didn't see the beat coming. Beckman is able to rush to get the quaffle, and I think it's actually going to be Boston beaters there first. They clear it. Now it's Peter Lawrence who might have a scoring opportunity because Morello's cleared out too. But it's Lawrence getting over to Jordan Smiley, who missed much of the season with injury. She gets, if it stands, her first goal of the year.
Yeah, and what a play from Erin Mccready on the defensive end and the offensive end to clean up the scrum around the hoops and create the driving lane for Peter Lawrence that Smiley ultimately finished.
Yeah, Smiley, a player a lot of people were high on coming out of college. Part of that Tufts team that went all the way to the national semifinals this year. Not just a part of it, a key cog. So much of their offense played through Jordan Smiley. Good to see her on the pitch. Good to see her opening her account if that goal is going to stand.
Yeah, exciting to see a player who made such a difference at the college level, getting the chance to shine at the MLQ level. Smiley getting her first goal.
Twin sister Brooke Smiley, also a key part of that Tufts team and that Tufts run. Going to be fun to watch both of them as they move into the club in the MLQ games. Rumor has it that Brooke might be playing for Detroit in a year from now. So we've been really hyped about a few beaters on that team already, and it'd be fun to see another one join.
Yeah, would love to see her in the North Division.
John Jackson bringing the ball down the near side. Steve Blitzky, takes one off of Tessa Mullins. But no, Tessa Mullins, the strength to not take it back. What a play by Mullins. Meanwhile, it's a pass to Armor Trading. I think that beat might have bounced off Jordan Smiley, so Armor Trading just muscles his way through and then immediately stops Taylor Crawford. Armor Trading, those fresh legs making a difference.
Armor Trading bringing so much energy onto the pitch. Love to see it for the New York Titans.
Paguada also makes a wrap. It's an advantage called. Zach Doyle behind to Taylor Crawford. Unfortunately, that aggression meant there weren't enough people home to stop Taylor Crawford, who got, I think, his freest goal of the season.
Yeah, maybe a little overextended for the Titans, but they're bringing it all on the pitch. Just have to focus and control themselves a little bit to remember to stay around the hoops.
Yeah. And, that's what we saw in the Washington series. They were willing to go in their depth. And these series are long. They are 3-hour-long affairs with, 21-player rosters in 90-degree heat. The teams that are willing to play 21 players, late in game 2, the fresh legs matter more than the skill, than that little skill boost you might get from your first line a lot of the times. New York's not scared to go to its fresh legs.
Yeah, and in the course of a 3-game series, you have so many momentum shifts, and bringing in a player who maybe hasn't gotten a lot of minutes but has been putting in the work at practice each week, and seeing that player succeed at the MLQ level, that can bring so much confidence to the veterans of a team and the starters just to see their teammate excel.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a weird thing to think about for a New York team who could win this game, win the next game, and win the East Division. I'm just waiting for the call from Chris Lecomte. It's going to be a blue card on Armor Trading, I believe, for that swat that we all watched. A chaser is allowed to swat a bludger coming at them, but it has to be before it hits them, and it can be one piece of contact. I'm not sure which of those things Armor Trading did wrong. Regardless, a blue card doesn't stack, and it's not going to be serving any time because of the goal, so really no harm to Armor Trading. But yeah, what I was saying is, for a team who's so close to winning probably the toughest division in the league, the East Division, it's easy to forget this is kind of a rebuilding project for this team. So many of their veteran players not with the team this year. Players like Michael Prada and Mo Hagag that have been mainstays. Taylor Crawford obviously moving up to Boston. I mean, that's a lot of their first and second lines from the teams that were in, MLQ finals and MLQ semifinals. So it's awesome how much they're doing here in the East Division. But at the same time, I think it matters just as much to their coaching staff that they're getting 1 through 21 playing time and getting 1 through 21 developed for the next season.
Yeah, it's great to see from head coach Frank Minson and his entire coaching staff how they've developed players over the course of the season. They're going to be in good shape next year, whatever happens here today.
Yep. Morello gets pressed high by Doyle, gets across to John Jackson. John Jackson with a head of steam. We've seen this one before. We know how it ends. It always ends in a John Jackson dunk with authority. 70-60 now in favor of Boston.
And John Jackson, the leading scorer for the New York Titans last year, gets on the board again. He is starting to take over these games exactly when the Titans need him to.
Skura being met by arbitrating up high. As he is back to Mark here for New York. Montero and Will Andrews back in the game. Their second shift to this one. They don't have budget control right now. CJ Jr. and Tessa Mullins, both Emerson grads, never played a minute together. Weren't even close in grad year, but on the field now for New York together.
Yeah, cool to see players from different generations as Paguada almost gets the pick six, but a sniped beat from Serena Montero saves the goal.
Yeah, and Boston got budget control back in that moment, so really important play all around there from Boston. No harm and the budget control. Skura with the ball goes over to Taylor Crawford. And back to Skura behind Montero. Montero getting him all the way down to the keeper's own line at 6 yards outside of the hoops. Smiley has it back to Skura. Skura is considering a shot. Holds up for now. Now in the lane. Tries a shot. It goes high. Doyle, though, is there to get the rebound. Smiley looked for a cut. Wasn't there. Doyle's just going to reset it all the way back up to Crawford. Crawford now hits the lane. Floats one over the head of Smiley. It might have been there, though New York was crashing. Oh, Doyle beats it to the end line. More hustle from these Boston lines, and they're getting chance after chance in these games.
Yeah, they are relentless. Unfortunately, the near side hoop fell down on the play. Will be reset after the offense as Jordan Smiley takes the shot just a little too high. A couple shots on the last possession, just a little too high, and the Forge come up empty-handed.
Yeah, she's a shooter. Very, very good one at that, just not going. We've seen a lot of that. It's a bit of a windy day here. The way the quaffle tends to fly, it tends to have a little bit of a float to it, and on a windy day, that can definitely affect your trajectory a bit, unless you're someone who really lasers a quaffle. If you ever watch, Harry Greenhouse when he's back in the game, the way he tends to throw a quaffle around doesn't let wind play much of a factor. John Jackson bringing the ball up the right side here, goes back to Mike Lee. Ian Skura stepping out. It's gonna be a high press. Mike Lee into the lane. Skura gets a wrap. Lee gets it off though. And it is Avery Oliver out of Syracuse putting it through, her first goal of the weekend. We are not up at 7. What a run it's been for New York since the timeout, 5-2. And they did that all really with not much of Devin Lee on the field. He's back now.
Yeah, and it's been with young players in big spots in the Chaser game. Earlier we saw Zach Armentrading coming in and getting a key goal. Now Avery Oliver finishing on the offensive end to tie the game for the Titans.
Yep. Taylor Crawford bringing the ball down. New York has never led in this game. They now knotted up at 7. Skura gets to the keeper's own line and passes over to Crawford. Lee is sitting in the middle of the zone. We're at the 15-minute mark, I believe. Maybe it was 19. I apologize. Morgan Bertram over to Skura. Skura in the lane. Flips one up before getting beat. It gets knocked down. Avery Oliver falls on it. New York is going to get a chance to take a lead into the 20-minute timeout here.
Yeah, and another shot, or maybe it was a pass, but just too high, and the New York Titans defense is going to be all over those missed shots, missed passes, just not quite accurate enough from the usually shorthanded Skura.
Yeah, Mike Lee patient here. Max Haveline back in the game, as is Louis Shu. They were so dominant, snitch on pitch in game 1. They're looking to do it again. Avery Oliver has it, gets it over to Leo Freed. Leo Freed, the one-handed grab. Freed gets behind the hoops. Freed goes right through Bertram. Shot is good.
Yeah, Leo Freed, another one of the young players for the Titans program, a player who is no stranger to big roles. comes in and scores, driving from the wing. That's a space that the Titans can really look to take advantage of against the Forge. Well played by the Harvard grad.
Yeah, Paul Ruffalo subbing in now. I think that's the last Quaffle player that New York hadn't gotten into a game so far this weekend. And with a lead as well, Skura back to Doyle. This first line here in for Boston. We didn't see a ton of Morgan Bertram in this one. She gets the ball up top. Considering her space, she's got a ton of it. Zips one just wide of the hoop. But, it's tempting to take that shot from the keeper's own line.
Yeah, and that's the type of faster-paced shot you were calling for in a game that has been affected a little bit by the wind, the breeze here at East Boston Memorial Stadium, kind of thrown the shot off of a player like Ian Skura, we're speculating. But ultimately, we're going to head into the endgame scenario with an 80-70 score and the Titans on top.
6-2 New York Titans since their timeout, which was pretty early in the game. They got down 5-2 really, really fast. And, I think it's been definitely about the way that New York has, found some goals, found more ways in. But it's also been about kind of the offense from Boston really drying up in a lot of ways. What do you think Boston needs to find to kind of get back to their scoring ways here?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think they have to play a little bit with the lineups that they're throwing onto the pitch and put some players on the field who can maybe take on players one-on-one in the spaces behind the hoops and on the wings. Somebody like Ryan Fenning, haven't seen a ton from on the offensive end. If they can use him like they used him last year against the Titans, he had a huge breakout, standout performance against the Titans. He's a player who can overcome some of the tackles that the Titans are throwing at the Forge right now.
Yeah, he had a huge year in his first year in Boston, 2021. A quieter year so far here in 2022. Did take the USQ season off. Hadn't played a ton in the winter and spring months. Returning from MLQ. I agree, especially not only in this series, but if this team wants to make a deep run at MLQ championship, which is always their goal. They have 3 championships, tied with Austin for most championships all time in MLQ. They need a bigger performance out of Fenning, so it'll be interesting to see if they can try to find one here down the stretch. Just a reminder of how this extra period works here in MLQ. We take the leading team score, we add 6 to it. That gets us to our set score. So in this case, New York has 8. You add 6, 14 is what we need to get to. First there wins. The only added caveat is the snitch, a neutral official who is currently right in front of your camera in the L shorts. That's Christian Barnes. Catching the snitch, each team has 1 seeker who can try, gets you 35 points, for all intents and purposes, 3 goals towards that set score. After that, both teams just play until somebody reaches it. So 8-7. Set score 14. We're about to get going here in the extra period. Tate K is going to step out to match up with Max Haveline. First exchange is a draw, but Tyler Beckman's going to get some time. Beckman immediately shot behind Barnes. But again, like we said, smart play out of Beckman. He's just going to try to take a 50-50 here with Cupid. Cupid now grappling with Barnes as John Jackson brings the ball down. Jackson's into the lane. We've seen this story. Finally, someone makes a hit. Loose ball picked up by Oliver, who can't get it through. Jackson, though, picks up the rebound. New York is now up 9-7. Game is to 14. Kellen Cupid almost behind Christian Barnes here.
Yeah, the Titans just coming in waves, and the goal for Jackson, giving him the hat trick on the game. The Titans really finding momentum in Game 2.
Yeah, Cupid, though, not having a great success here against Barnes with a lot of time. They don't have a lot of depth at the secret game, as we talked about. Meanwhile, Ryan Fenning goes end-to-end, dishes off to Athena Mayer, and I think there might have just been an accidental run-in here between 2 New York players. Kellen Cupid goes down hard.
Yeah, Cupid, the injured player. Hope he's all right on the play.
Yep. As we swing back to the booth, yeah, we talked to Frank Minton before the game. He talked about, not necessarily having all of his seeking depth that he tends to have this weekend. Most notably, Vinny Iannucci, who's been a really consistent seeker for this program for a couple years now, out with an ankle injury from a couple weeks back. He said it's a 2-player rotation. It is Kellen Cupid, the star, and it's Eric Paguada. But he apparently lied to us because subbing into the game is Harvard product Leo Freed. He is the starting seeker for Harvard. He can be a danger. He's a very athletic player. He's trained with Harry Greenhouse, arguably the GOAT of snitch seeking, I would say. It's going to be interesting here.
Yeah, and Freed is a bigger player who can use his length and size to reach around Barnes and go for the snitch grab like Beckman was doing in Game 1. Cupid, a smaller, craftier player who's very studious and works on his moves. Freed is going to try to bring the pure power here against Barnes, the snitch.
Meanwhile, TK has been doing an absolutely great job against the combo. Oh, wow. Leo Freed had an attempt immediately off the bat. Max Haveline had the beat. But, yeah, this is the danger of a longer player like Freed here. Tyler Beckman's looking to get an opportunity. I think Tessa Mullins' beat just missed. This is going to be Beckman's first time with a lot of time. Meanwhile, John Jackson has slowed the game down. Beckman is shooting left, right, and center right now on Barnes. Zhu clears out Leo Freed. But still, there's no catch for Beckman. Christian Barnes doing a great job in the Seeker game. Lindsay Morello is in no rush here. Finally, I think Tessa Mullins might clear Beckman. No, she missed again.
Yeah, it's been tough for Tessa Mullins in the beating game today. Some uncharacteristic missed beats as New York is now working their way behind the hoops.
Yeah, John Jackson was looking for a screen as Leo Freed tries to get into the snitch. Paul Ruffalo now has the ball. He gets wrapped up by Athena Mayer, and I think Carson Olazaba is headed to the box. It looked like his wrap clipped the neck of Ruffalo.
Yeah, unfortunate for Olazaba. Made a great tackle on Jackson, but as Ruffalo was falling, caught a bit of his neck, and he's going to go to the penalty box for that. That's something you can't do.
And meanwhile, looking over at the snitch game, Tate K and Tessa Mullins have the bludgers. They are in what I call the box. They have the area locked down. Leo Freed, off of this timeout, is going to get some unopposed seconds to make this catch.
Yeah, box, bubble, whatever you want to call it. When two beaters have two bludgers and they position themselves around their seeker at the snitch, that's considered an exceptional opportunity in quad ball.
And he almost caught right away. Meanwhile, John Jackson misses a pass. Greenhouse and Leo Freed are now flying all over the ground. Greenhouse does get beat out. Leo Freed is getting so close. Misses just barely again. Meanwhile, a loose ball is picked up by Ryan Fenning. It's not going to be a goal here for Boston. For New York. Boston's now going the other way in transition. Ryan Fenning and John Jackson, two of the biggest players on the pitch, go to the ground together. Loose ball. Nobody can fall on it. Tate K finally makes a beat to clear it. Leo Freed got another chance there. Cannot deliver. K trying to get back into the snitch game. Leo Freed has the catch.
Oh, this would be big for the Titans.
The Harvard product who plays all year with and against the players of this Boston program might have gotten New York all but even in the series. It won't be enough to get them to set score. They would only need 2 goals. The catch is no good from Freed.
Yeah, I didn't quite hear the call.
So I think he never had possession in the catch was the call. It was the second time we saw sock go to ground without it being in Freed's hand. You only need it for a split second. If you make that catch, even if you have it for a split second before dropping. Meanwhile, things are getting heated here. Looks like Leo Freed's going to take an injury substitution. Kellen Cupid back into the game. Max Haveline and Harry Greenhouse, 2 veterans of this Boston program, communicating across the field here on what they're going to do to strategically, because Tate K and Tessa Mullins have been doing a really, really good job around the snitch.
Yeah, and it's Harry Greenhouse in the game at Seeker. You called him the GOAT of seeking. Not the starter for the Forge anymore. It's been Tyler Beckman the past few years as Morella gets the goal on the other end. But let's see what Greenhouse can do.
Cupid's going to be the first one to get a chance, though. Here's Greenhouse trying to get set. It's a 50-50 opportunity. Those are always risky. Cupid just flies in. No, he does not get it. Meanwhile, Quaffle play going the other way. Ryan Fenning gets wrapped by Midson. I think there might be an advantage on the play. Manhart's going to try a shot, but in the meantime, we have a Kellen Cupid grab. But there was a foul in the Quaffle game. Everything's going to have to be sorted out here by the refs.
Cupid on his knees, pumps his fists, just coming back into the play, running towards the camera.
Yep. So you cannot catch a snitch during an active advantage call. So because New York was working, Boston was working on advantage there. Kellen Cupid not able to successfully catch the snitch. He caught it. It just doesn't count. So now we have going into the box for New York is Frank Minson. Boston's going to be in a very good position to score, but the snitch, which is really going to be the decisive moment of this game, is still anybody's game.
Yeah, 2 snitch catches negated for the Titans. They are so close. You can feel it. But Boston still in the game, and Harry Greenhouse is going to get a chance to flip the momentum.
Yeah, and it's 180 here in favor of New York. Ball goes behind to Jordan Smiley. Smiley makes her shot. She gets her second of the game. That's the shot she loves to hit. And now it's 100-90. Game is 140 as going end-to-end is Zach Armentrading using that size. Kellen Cupid has the grab. I saw Snitch Christian Barnes, though, immediately signal, so I think they're going to have to talk it out. If this catch is good, this does put New York over the set score. This would send us to a rubber match.
Yeah, and it's been Tate K with the bludger in hand, along with Tessa Mowens, who I believe just lost bludger control, but they had maintained that box or bubble around the snitch for a good period, just sending Max Haveline and Leanne Dillman back and forth to the hoops. And the catch is good.
The catch is good. The game is over. Kellen Cupid makes the grab to send New York even here. New York now 1 win away. All they have to do is win Game 3, and the East Division is theirs for a second consecutive year. And now, if Boston wins Game 3, absolute chaos ensues in the East Division. We're going to talk about that all in a few minutes, but Jack, a heck of a game and a heck of a series here so far.
Yeah, what a response from the New York Titans coming out of the timeout. They went down early, looked lost after losing the first game, but found some answers with some of their younger players coming into the game. Whether it's a key goal from Zach Armentrading, a key goal from Avery Oliver, and then ultimately in the beater game with Tate K and Tessa Mowens holding bludger control, setting up around the snitch, and creating the window for Kellen Cupid to end the game with the snitch catch.
Yeah, we gave Kay a hard time for looking a step slow against Haveline and Chu in their first shift of Game 2. Around snitch on pitch, he did not look one step slow. He looked like Team USA, multiple-time national champion Tate K. And thanks to that, Kellen Cupid got the opportunity to put New York 1 game away from a division title. We'll be back with a couple interviews. We will be back for a decisive Game 3 here in the East Division. I'm Ethan Sturm along with Jack McGovern. Thanks for watching, and we'll be right back.
Quadball is a sport that integrates aspects from rugby, basketball, and dodgeball to create a fast-paced, mixed-gender game that features 7 players per side. Okay, so quadball is played on a grass or turf field with 3 hoops of varying heights on each team's half. There's 4 balls in quadball, 1 quaffle, and 3 bludgers, and the players run with brooms between their legs and must complete all the play while on broom. If a player comes off broom at any point, they have to tag the center hoop on their team's half.
And we're back. I'm Ethan Sturm along with Serena Montero of the Boston Forge, just here to talk a little bit about Game 2. Obviously a game that didn't go your guys' way. You guys got out to a 5-2 lead. What do you feel that New York kind of did to you guys to flip the script there in that one?
Well, we were a little put off on that game 1 0-3 run, so we wanted to make sure that we didn't die coming off of that first game, that first win. Wanted to put on the Jets right away, starting game 2, show them what we're made of, and we're a scoring team. So yeah, honestly, fresh legs, same mindset, just go go go. Yeah.
Obviously, the snitch on pitch beating has been extremely heated in this series and it's been very decisive. First, I want to ask you kind of the choice the team made. Obviously, you're one of the coaches here. Max Haveline was a 0 part of the snitch on pitch game against Washington. Mm-hmm. It seems like he and Lulu are now starting the series. What was that decision change made? And also, how do you feel like the snitch on pitch game has been going so far?
Snitch on pitch is always the most exciting and nail-biting part of the game. Max and Lulu have definitely been even more, if it's possible, honing their chemistry as the season has gone on. Washington was a series earlier on in the season, where later on we've tried some new stuff out, a lot of different pairs, mixing and matching. We wanted to get a really solid pair out there for snitch on pitch, and Max and Lulu are also really good at splitting their attention right during snitch on pitch. So they're on the seeker, and then if there is room to breathe, you saw Lulu Shoes, she's out there just tapping out chasers on defense all the time. So they have that ability to really split attention there. So we want to start out with that to make sure that our chasers aren't giving up goals while we're also focusing on the snitch.
Yeah, yourself and Will Andrews had a couple good shifts there in game 2. Will, one of the youngest beaters in this core, kind of new to the Boston area as well, came over from the Michigan program. What's it been like playing with him, and what's he kind of brought to the team?
Will Andrews has been such an awesome addition to our Boston team. He was on our Forge practice squad the season before, played with me specifically also during the USQ season. So we have also had a lot of time to hone our chemistry as a beating pair. He is one of the smartest beater partners I think I've ever played with. He's got great patience and just insane execution when he does decide to, make that beat or just, make that run out there. He's a really grounding force in our beating squad, and I'm super happy to have him out there with us.
That's to say, you are also a force on the pitch and make it a lot easier for him to perform as well. There's so much familiarity in this series between people who play colleges in the opposite cities going back and forth, or, players who have gone over and played for both these MLQ teams. What does that kind of bring to make this series any different or kind of bring to the field in these games?
Because, again, as you said, there are players from our regular season teams, and now we're opposing in the MLQ season. The New York-Boston series is always, to me at least, and I know to my team, the highest stakes, right? We're playing against our friends. We're playing against our old teammates. We all have so much to prove. I think it brings, an awesome energy to the field, and it's you can tell just by the energy on the field. Everybody wants to win this game so bad to prove a point. When you're on the Forge or when you're on the Titans, that's your team. The regular season didn't matter. You have to get those wins for your team. So it's a really personal series. I think that's really showing with the emotion and the grit that on the field right now.
Awesome. I know we pulled you away pretty quickly into the post-game huddle, but what's the messaging kind of coming out of the coaching staff for this game 3?
I mean, game 3, it's the deciding one for the series, right? Everything here is on the line. The other 2 games don't matter. This is the one game that matters. This is the most important game. We need to keep our heads up. We need to, again, come out there hitting, swinging, shooting, scoring. We are not hanging our heads. We're coming out to win.
Awesome. Well, Serena, thanks so much for taking the time. I'll let you get back to your team. Best of luck in game 3.
Thank you, Ethan.
We'll be right back. We are back with New York seeker and beater Kellen Cupid, fresh off the game-winning grab there in Game 2. Kellen, I want to talk to you first about the early moments of that game, because after you kind of blitzed them in Game 1, they came right back and did the same to you guys in Game 2. 5-2 run to start, and you guys call the timeout off that injury timeout. What was said in that huddle, and what change did you guys try to make to flip that game?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it felt a lot worse than it actually was. It felt like they had 3 or 4 straight against us at the start, and when I finally made it on to pitch, I saw it was only, I think it was 2-5. So we knew that in the first game we started off incredible and then blew a really quick 3-point lead, or 30-point lead, sorry. So it wasn't too much of a cause for concern for us that we were only down 30 points. We just need to focus, settle down, and play our game. And I think that's what we did. I think Phil and I were out here. We slowed it down a little bit. We were able to get back control. And then once we settled into our game, got back into our 3-1, we were able to take advantage and get back into control of the game in general.
Yeah, it did seem like that hoop zone, that 3-1 as it was, got off to a bit of a rough start. Did you guys make any kind of micro adjustments, or was it more just about getting more grounded in the beater game?
I think it was about getting grounded, but it also helps when you're running it with control, right? It's really hard to run a 3-1 when you only have one beater or one bludger with on your hoops. So both just settling down and getting control back, I think, helped us out a lot.
Yeah. Obviously, you come up with that grab. Anybody who's watched quad ball knows that a seeker can only be as good as their beaters. Can you talk about the performance that Tate K and Tessa Mullins put out in that game?
Oh, man. The first two people I was running to find were Tate and Tessa because that was incredible. I told them myself, like, that was the best snitch on pitch session we've had the entire season so far. I had so much time in the snitch, Leo as well, and it showed we caught 3 times. Of course, 2 of them got called off, but that was an incredible job from our beaters.
Yeah. Going into game 3, what are you guys kind of talking about in the huddle? Are you kind of happy with the performance game 2? Think you can get a similar result to that one? Or do you still think there's some things to kind of key in on here in this game 3?
Yeah, so I think our main thought process going into this is that we just need to relax and play our game, right? I think us winning that last game put the pressure onto Boston a lot because now we just know one more game when we sealed the title. We could still even potentially win the title without this last win, but we're not really thinking into all of that. We're just trying to settle down, play our game, and trying to go out there and have a little bit of fun.
I am going to push you, though, on that. you guys are a young team. It's kind of been a narrative all year long. What would an East Division title mean for this team?
I mean, to be honest, we came into the season not even expecting to be in this position. We knew that we were going to have a lot of rotation, a lot of emphasis on our youth. So we thought like maybe we would just come in, barely qualify for champs, and take it from there. But the fact that we're doing so well, we only have the 2 losses on the season. A title, I think, would exceed our expectations so much that it would give us such a confidence boost going into Howard County that hopefully we can walk away with the Bennett Cup after that.
Yeah, awesome. You mentioned the rotations. I believe when Ruffalo subbed in that last game, your entire roster had been on the field, which is, I think, an awesome accomplishment for a team, especially a team who's committed to their rebuild. So it is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, and you could see the kind of dividends that it's been paying, you know? Like, Ruffalo himself had an incredible stop in the hoops there. So I think a lot of our players are getting so much experience that's going to really help us, especially in Howard County, where I know last year it got a little hot. So we're definitely going to need the depth there as well, especially for a 2-day tournament, too.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you get back to prepping for Game 3 here, Kellen.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We'll be right back.
Quad ball is a sport that integrates aspects from rugby, basketball, and dodgeball to create a fast-paced, mixed-gender game that features 7 players per side. Okay, so quad ball is played on a grass or turf field with 3 hoops of varying heights on each team's half. There's 4 balls in quad ball, 1 quaffle, and 3 bludgers, and the players run with brooms between their legs and must complete all the play while on broom. If a player comes off broom at any point, they have to tag the center hoop on their team's half before resuming play. Alright, so there's a lot of different positions. The first 2 are chasers and keepers, known together as quaffle players. They use the quaffle, a slightly deflated volleyball, to try to score through their opponent's hoops. There are 3 chasers per team, and they wear a white headband, and there's 1 keeper per team, and they wear a green headband. The keeper is only different in they can't be interfered with in their team's keeper zone, which is an area around the hoops when they possess the quaffle. On offense, all 4 players move the quaffle by running and passing and shooting to attempt to score. A good goal can be scored from either side of the hoop, and it's worth 10 points. On defense, players can tackle each other, and we're talking full contact to prevent the other team from scoring. Beaters, distinguished by black headbands, use the bludgers, dodgeballs, in attempts to knock out the opposing team's players. Each team has 2 beaters at any given time. A player of any position that is hit by a bludger thrown by the opposing team's beaters must dismount their broom, drop the ball they possess, and tag in on the center hoop before they can rejoin play. Beaters help their quaffle players on offense to clear paths to score, as well as work to stop opposing teams from scoring. Okay, so seekers, the ones with the yellow headband, pursue the snitch runner in an attempt to grab that snitch tail from their shorts, kind of like flag football, in order to earn 35 points for their team. They don't enter the game until after the 20-minute timeout, and they leave the game immediately after a good catch has been recorded. The snitch runner is an impartial official whose sole purpose is to prevent the seekers from catching their snitch tail. They can grab, push, wrap, or run away from the seekers to stop them from catching the snitch. The snitch runner comes onto the field after the 20-minute timeout and stays until they are caught. Quad ball is played in 2 halves. The first consists of a timed 20 minutes, and the second ends only when the set score gets reached. During the first half, the quaffle players and the beaters work together to score goals and stop the other team from scoring goals. When the game clock hits 20 minutes, there's a 2-minute timeout, and that's when the seekers and the snitch runner get introduced. At the same time, they're going to determine the set score. It's determined by taking the total of the leading team's score and adding 60 points. The set score gets indicated on a scoreboard, which will be separate from the game score, and whichever team reaches the set score first, either through only quaffle points or with the addition of that snitch catch, win the game. Quad ball is a sport that integrates aspects from rugby, basketball, and dodgeball to create a fast-paced, mixed-gender game that features 7 players per side. Okay, so quad ball is played on a grass or turf field with 3 hoops of varying heights on each team's half. There's 4 balls in quad ball, 1 quaffle, and 3 bludgers, and the players run with brooms between their legs and must complete all the play while on broom. If a player comes off broom at any point, they have to tag the center hoop on their team's half before resuming play. Alright, so there's a lot of different positions. The first two are chasers and keepers, known together as quaffle players. They use the quaffle, a slightly deflated volleyball, to try to score through their opponent's hoops. There are 3 chasers per team, and they wear a white headband, and there's 1 keeper per team, and they wear a green headband. The keeper is only different in they can't be interfered with in their team's keeper zone, which is an area around the hoops when they possess the quaffle. On offense, all 4 players move the quaffle by running and passing and shooting to attempt to score. A good goal can be scored from either side of the hoop, and it's worth 10 points. On defense, players can tackle each other, and we're talking full contact to prevent the other team from scoring. Beaters, distinguished by black headbands, use the bludgers, dodgeballs, in attempts to knock out the opposing team's players. Each team has 2 beaters at any given time. A player of any position that is hit by a bludger thrown by the opposing team's beaters must dismount their broom, drop the ball they possess, and tag in on the center hoop before they can rejoin play. Beaters help their quaffle players on offense to clear paths to score, as well as work to stop opposing teams from scoring. Okay, so seekers, the ones with the yellow headband, pursue the snitch runner in an attempt to grab that snitch tail from their shorts, kind of like flag football, in order to earn 35 points for their team. They don't enter the game until after the 20-minute timeout, and they leave the game immediately after a good catch has been recorded. The snitch runner is an impartial official whose sole purpose is to prevent the seekers from catching their snitch tail. They can grab, push, wrap, or run away from the seekers to stop them from catching the snitch. The snitch runner comes onto the field after the 20-minute timeout and stays until they are caught. Quad ball is played in 2 halves. The first consists of a timed 20 minutes, and the second ends only when the set score gets reached. During the first half, the quaffle players and the beaters work together to score goals and stop the other team from scoring goals. When the game clock hits 20 minutes, there's a 2-minute timeout, and that's when the seekers and the snitch runner get introduced. At the same time, they're going to determine the set score. It's determined by taking the total of the leading team's score and adding 60 points. The set score gets indicated on a scoreboard, which will be separate from the game score, and whichever team reaches the set score first, either through only quaffle points or with the addition of that snitch catch, win the game. Quadball is a sport that integrates aspects from rugby, basketball, and dodgeball to create a fast-paced, mixed-gender game that features 7 players per side. Okay, so quadball is played on a grass or turf field with 3 hoops of varying heights on each team's half. There's 4 balls in quadball, 1 quaffle, and 3 bludgers, and the players run with brooms between their legs and must complete all the play while on broom. If a player comes off broom at any point, they have to tag the center hoop on their team's half before resuming play. Alright, so there's a lot of different positions. The first 2 are chasers and keepers, known together as quaffle players. They use the quaffle, a slightly deflated volleyball, to try to score through their opponent's hoops. There are 3 chasers per team, and they wear a white headband, and there's 1 keeper per team, and they wear a green headband. The keeper is only different in they can't be interfered with in their team's keeper zone, which is an area around the hoops when they possess the quaffle. On offense, all 4 players move the quaffle by running and
And welcome back to East Boston Memorial Park. I'm Jack McGovern here with CJ Carter. We're going to bring you a little bit of analysis as we head into the rubber match of this 3-game series. Boston taking game 1, New York responding in game 2. For Boston, their tempo in game 2 started fast, and they were bringing that from game 1, but sort of died as the game went on. Why do you think that was happening, and what were you seeing from the Forge?
I think they wanted to try and replicate a lot of what worked well in game 1. We saw the fast break opportunities, we saw the run and gun from the beater play, willing to exchange in the middle of the field. And I think it just kind of burned out. If we saw the beater exchanges in the middle of the play, yes, New York got a couple of calls against them, but at the end of the day, they were still winning the trades and the battles in the middle of the field, and I think that prevented Boston from running on them in a lot of the situations they wanted to run on. And then I think that frustrated Boston. We could kind of see it heads down, dejected, like several possessions even before we started getting the no calls on the snitch. We saw dejected Boston players, frustration on the offensive end because of that too. The half-court sets weren't there because they couldn't play in transition.
Yeah, absolutely. When you get into the half court and you're just trying to break down a set hoop zone defense like the New York Titans were throwing at them, and you're only getting those looks, it can be really hard to feel good about yourselves. And fast breaks are so psychological for a team like the Forge that just feeds off the energy that each other provide. For New York, a much improved beating performance in game 2, able to match what Boston was throwing at them, and then especially in snitch on pitch, Tate K and Tessa Mowens using both bludgers around the snitch to give great opportunities to Kellen Cupid. What else did you see from the New York Titans beaters in game 2?
Well, I think you said it best, controlling the middle of the field. Boston wants to play stretched out. That's with the quaffle, and that is with bludger play. So they want balls on the ground. It doesn't matter where. They can be on either end of the pitch. They want balls on the ground. And they did that effectively in game 1. They did that effectively at the start of game 2. But we saw that, you mentioned it, Tate K, Tessa Mullins bringing the ball back in. You can control and dominate the pitch. If your beaters are clicking in sync with control, doesn't matter how far that they can throw, they can use their legs and dominate the entire space. We saw that from both Tessa and Tate.
Yeah, by taking control of the middle of the pitch especially. We are approaching game time, so we're going to throw to our start screen, but we'll be right back in a moment with Ethan Sturm on the call for game 3.
And we are back with arguably the biggest game of the MLQ season to date. Game 3 here at East Boston Memorial Stadium between the rival teams, the Boston Forge and the New York Titans. So much to play for. The straightforward version is a New York win. New York becomes the 2-time East Division champions. The more complicated version, a Boston win. There's a lot still to play for. Washington remains in the mix. Suffice to say, you need to win this game if you want a chance at winning the division. We are about to get started here with Chris LeCompte on the call. I'm Ethan Sturman, Jack McGovern. We appreciate you sticking with us. We know we've had some technical difficulties on the choppiness, but there will be full versions of this up within 24 hours on the MLQ Network YouTube page. Taylor Crawford just taking it right in. Nobody answering him, but he can't get to go, and then the bludger finally comes. Loose ball picked up by Doyle, but I think John Jackson is headed directly into the box.
Yeah, and with beaters out of the play, Taylor Crawford had an opportunity to finish, just wasn't able to get through the Titans' defense, and the bludger ultimately came. Zach Doyle will get a chance to slot the quaffle through with Jackson in the penalty box.
Yeah, Crawford never wanted to shy away from physicality, kind of did a bit there. Zach Doyle is going to try to answer the call up against Mike Lee, who, as we've talked about, is really needing to show a little bit more physicality here in Game 3. Pass goes back to Ian Skura. Molly Potter steps up to him. Bolitsky beats her. Now it's Skura in the lane. That is the connection that Boston loves on the offensive end. Skura puts one up. Doyle puts it down. 1-0 Boston here in Game 3.
Yeah, Skura to Doyle was so deadly against the Charlotte Aviators in the opening series of the weekend as the home crowd gets into it. If Skura and Doyle can find and recapture that magic, Boston is going to be in business in Game 3.
It's Mike Lee with the ball behind, goes back up to Jackson. Bolitsky and Lee take an exchange. Lee wins once, but Aaron Mccready cleans it up. Now it's loose waffle everywhere. New York is not going on it yet. Now it's no bludgers. Yanko considers trying to go by Doyle. Can't quite get the screen off of Potter. Never saw McCready's beat coming, but I think it missed. And now Yanko gets around. Middle hoop shot is no good. Great eyes in the back of her head by Potter there. She pops it up to Jackson. Now Jackson has a no bludger opportunity. He has not missed one of those all day. It's not up at one.
Yeah, and that goal was created by Molly Potter's field awareness and sense of where the bludgers were, getting the quaffle back to Jackson and keeping the possession alive. Great heads-up play from Molly Potter.
Also created by Devin Lee and Tessa Mullins, who got back bludger control and created the no bludger situation. And now Lee wins another exchange and forces the turnover. But there's going to be a call on the play. All right, so Taylor Crawford tried to throw that one away as Lee pressed hard. Head ref Chris LeCompte saying the ball did not get off in time. So rather than the ball going all the way back there, it's going to be right here with New York a chance to score and make it 2-1 fast.
Yeah, it's a judgment call for the referees. Crawford trying to make the right play and sending the ball deep, but ultimately whistled by head referee Chris LeCompte.
Oh, and Lee stumbles. Crawford makes a big hit. Rachel Manhart going the other way. She's got room in front. The bludgers come flying. Did any of them hit? It's not going to matter because she was not able to get a shot off, and John Jackson's going to recover.
Yeah, Manhart with the great dodge of the bludger, but not able to find the hoops, loses her footing a little bit. Just love the composure, though, to take the quaffle and run up the field from Manhart.
And we're getting more of what we've gotten all series, an up-tempo pace, bludgers flying left, right, and center, and really a battle of the wills to kind of get to those hoops in these no-bludger situations.
Absolutely. As Devin Lee is making his presence felt early on for the Titans.
Yeah, we talked to Frank Minson, his head coach, before the series. Minson and Lee have been playing together going all the way back to their NYU days. And I asked Minson, do you feel like Devin Lee has taken another step this summer? And he agreed 100% in the affirmative. It has been an even better Devin Lee than we've seen in the past. Regardless, the Manhart goal, as we mentioned, didn't get through the hoop, so it's going to be John Jackson bringing it up with the score knotted, still at 1 here early. Bludger control is with Boston. It's with Bolitsky and Mccready. Mullins trying to get up behind Bolitsky here to get it back. Passes across to Yanko. Guarded by Manhart. Manhart slips through a couple screens from Potter. It's marked defense here from Boston early in game one. Lee gets rid of Manhart. Crawford coming back into the play, coming off of Jackson. He can't be beaten in his own keeper zone because he's wearing the green headband. So he's the best possible defender to have up top as long as he doesn't go past this line of cones.
Yeah, crafty little play from Taylor Crawford to try to pop into the driving lane of Yanko.
But John Jackson pipes one through the near hoop and lets out a let's go. The old battle cry of the leader of Boston back in the day, Jake Archibald, 2-1 in favor of New York.
Yeah, and the Titans early on in Game 3, so patient on offense, waiting for their best chances, picking apart the Boston defense. That's exactly how they're going to want to play to come up with the victory in Game 3.
Yep. So the referees are going to talk it over here. But, yeah, like you said, it's all about pace control. Sometimes these games have gotten a little out of control. Specifically, I think the early minutes of Game 2, it got hard to announce with how quickly the play was going back and forth. And it was when New York finally settled down a little bit, created some half courts, got some no-bludgers in those half courts, scored a couple goals. They were back into that game. And this seems like more of the same realization here out of New York so far this game.
Yeah, it was frantic end-to-end stuff in the beginning of Game 2. Both teams love to play that way when everything is going right. But for two teams that are really trying to make the most of their opportunities, I think that's why you're seeing a more patient approach in Game 3.
Mike Lee makes a wrap on Taylor Crawford, who dishes it over to Skura. Skura sees nothing but open air in front of him, gets to the hoop, knots us back up at 2 in this decisive Game 3.
Yeah, and that's a huge play from Skura, just to steady the ship for the Boston Forge. Under pressure, comes away with the goal and ties the game.
And here's the matchup that we saw so much of in Game 2. Louis Shu and Max Haveline back in, and Tate Kay and Kerry Donnelly. And Kay putting on a clinic in Cinch pitch after a rough shift against them in the opening minutes. And also the first time we're seeing John Jackson and Leo Freed on the field together.
Yeah, it's been Kay and Donnelly consistently matching up with Haveline and Shu, at least before the snitch comes onto the pitch. Interesting to see what they can do here.
Pass across to nobody in particular. Leo Freed pressed by Shu and Haveline. Now it's going the other way. Doyle gets wrapped hard by Yanko. Loose ball is picked up by Skura. Bludger still coming back into the play here. Skura slips around Freed, floats one. Zach Doyle goes flying through the air. And did he just knock that through the top hoop?
Wow, I don't think I've ever seen that from the former college volleyball player. Spikes it through the top hoop.
Yeah, it might have been more of almost a dig diving across the ground there. I'm not super caught up on my volleyball terminology, but either way, it would mean a Boston lead if this one's good. The ref's just taking an extra second to talk it out.
Oh, I want it to count.
Yeah, the Boston sideline also wants it to count. The goal is good.
Love to see a play like that from Doyle. It's his second goal of the game as Boston takes a 3-2 lead.
Have a day, Zach Doyle. So Freed now is going to have the ball again after that unfortunate turnover on the last possession, getting pressed by his two college coaches in Max Haveline and Louis Shu to force the turnover.
Yeah, it's cool to see. We mentioned earlier, but there are so many familiar faces on both teams. Players who play in Boston but are competing for the Titans, players who have played in New York but are playing now at the Forge. These teams are very close.
Johnson has the ball behind, gets it across to Oliver, who's been a big contributor, but in this case, Andrew Steinberg, fresh in the game, wraps her up, ball's loose. Ian Skura considers running down the field, gets wrapped by Oliver. I think she's just going to be sent back to hoops for the behind-the-back contact. Now it's Skura looking to take on Michael Johnson. And Ian Skura and Zach Doyle, just like we saw early in the season in Charlotte, are taking over this game.
Yeah, and there's the mid-range shot from Ian Skura. When he is hitting that, he is one of the most dangerous players in the game. It's something he practices so much, and it's paying off for the Boston Forge in this rubber match.
Sometimes you need your stars to take over. And it's Jackson with 2 for New York. It is Doyle and Skura each with 2 for Boston. Floater across. Yanko gets up to it. Marked by Athena Mayer. Gets by her. Rips one sidearmed. And it's good. Really nicely done there.
Yeah, we'll see if the call stands. It's a great shot to find through the contact from Ryan Fenning back in the game, just making huge hits around the hoops, making his presence felt. But Yanko able to locate the hoops and bring the Titans one goal down.
Yep, that is a goal there. As long as it stands, ref's still talking it over. Yep, no call on the play that's going to affect that goal. Yanko gets on the board. It is now 4-3.
Yanko has been such a big contributor for the Titans all season, playing in the off-ball role, finding spaces in the wings and unleashing his shot, also making drives to the hoops, has been an enormous piece for the Titans.
Harry Greenhouse now in the game, wrapped by Yanko, but I believe Max Haveline had the beat. Goes over to Mayer. Mayer gets in the lane. Mayer hits the floater off the top and in.
Oh, and you love to see that. That's where quad ball players are taught to aim the very top of the top hoop. Only the tallest keepers can defend that, and Mayer executes it to perfection.
So New York closes to within one, and just immediately Athena Mayer answers. Now it's Michael Johnson hitting the lane. Shu presses high. It's a big hit by Tate K.
Shu absorbs it and keeps the bludger, though, and now is going to force the turnover, or not quite.
Yeah, Athena Mayer, another hit. She's doing it on both sides of the field.
As we get a bludger flying towards the broadcasting booth. You see it all in quad ball.
But, yeah, I think it might be on the hit on Shu. She's just favoring her leg a little bit here as they discuss it. Contact, full contact legal here in quad ball. Two-armed, wrapping, tackling, all okay. There's just certain regulations. I think the one, if they were going to call Tate K on one for here, which they didn't, would have been initiating the contact from behind. But no call on the play here. Shu's just going to go have to pick up her bludger, the one I just knocked back on the field. Fenning, meanwhile, gets it to Steinberg. Steinberg controls that through the near hoop. Beautiful in transition from the pair. We've been talking about Steinberg all day. It's 6-3 now. Leo Free looking to go the other way. Greenhouse wraps him. He gets it off to Oliver. Oliver tries the mid-range shot pass. Johnson slips. Shu cleans it up. Boston is just looking a little better in transition here.
Yeah, just too high from Oliver on the shot. It was absolutely the right decision, but did not fall. On the other end, Steinberg back in the game and making his presence known. Another type of volleyball play where he ricochets the ball through the hoops on the pass from Fenning. It doesn't matter how you put the quaffle through the hoops. It's 10 points either way, and Boston is up 60-30.
Greenhouse with the ball goes back to Steinberg. Hot hand here today. Over to Greenhouse again. Greenhouse now finds a chance to hit the lane. Leo Fried wraps, affects the shot. The shot goes high and out of bounds. Big stop for New York to stem the bleeding.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We talked to CJ Carter after game one, who talked about how Steinberg has really embraced his role this season as a player who's going to operate behind the hoops and get chances off ball. He's taking advantage of those opportunities here today.
Minson with the ball on the near side. Harry Greenhouse wraps, does come out of his keeper zone, so he can be beat. Kerry Donnelly takes advantage. Now Minson's trying to get by Athena Mayer. Does the hard part, doesn't do the easy part, which is getting that short range shot anywhere near on goal. Meanwhile, Max Haveline and Tate K go toe-to-toe with Max Haveline winning out.
Yeah, it's going to be Haveline and Shu with bludger control again. And another shot from Minson that's just off the mark. The Titans not quite executing their shots here in Game 3 yet, whereas Boston, on the other hand, seems to be hitting everything.
Yeah, speaking of which, Fenning is in the lane. Floats one over to Mayer. We were asking for more from Fenning. We are finally getting it here in Game 3. He is picking out his teammates left, right, and center.
Yeah, and that's too easy. Ryan Fenning on ball is going to find a perfect cut from Athena Mayer, who finishes with style. The Boston Forge are feeling good, up 70-30 now.
Mayer has been such an important stabilizing factor in this program as they've had a lot of turnover in the quaffle game. She is a contributor on the offensive and defensive end. She has very few holes in her game. Gets another goal there.
Yeah, a big question heading into the season as New York turns the ball over was how would Boston replace their starting chaser, Grace Dastu, from last season, who was retired as Mayer
there it
scores
is.
again.
It's a hat trick for Mayer here in Game 3.
Just incredible. She is absolutely staking her claim to that role on the Boston Forge roster, and she is hyped up.
Yeah, and Finn McGargan, fellow teammate, not on the roster this weekend, looking to kind of be one of the assistant coaches, immediately runs out to her old teammate on that Tufts program that has contributed so much of this roster. But it has been Boston clinical in transition, and New York, who just hasn't quite been able to find those opportunities.
Yeah, the passes are on the mark. The shots are on the mark. This is a Boston team playing at home with their home fans in the stands behind us that is focused and determined here in Game 3 to have a shot at the division title if they can beat Washington in the coming weeks.
Yeah. The scenarios definitely get complicated at that point with the 2-1s all around. I think they would have to come out and win that game against Washington to become division champions. And I think a loss in what is literally basically a game to 5, probably 10 minutes of gameplay, would throw them all the way down to the 3rd seed. So even with a win here, things very, very complicated down the stretch in this division.
Yeah, the stakes are high. The teams, of course, are playing for seeding spots at MLQ Championship, which will be held in Howard County, Maryland, August 20th to 22nd. The top 2 seeds in each division get buys to the championship bracket. The 3rd place team in each division has to work their way through the play-in bracket. So Boston, which could fall to 3rd place if they lose here, is not going to want to have to work their way through the play-in bracket. I believe for the first time in their history, they would be doing that.
Yeah, it's a brutal gauntlet to have to come that route. We saw teams have to do it last year as well. And yeah, I mean, it's not just about that. It's also about titles. I mean, this was Boston's division. They won 5 consecutive East Division titles before New York took it from them last year. They do not want that to happen again here.
Yeah, that's a great point. They take so much pride in what they do here in Boston. This is a team with a championship pedigree and so many division titles. They want to beat their rivals at home.
Yep, Freed with the ball, bringing it over to Paguada, subbing in for the first time. Minson's behind. Phil Kane is sent back to hoops, rolling over on the ground. Paguada, a lot of patience here. Greenhouse is not stepping out. Now Mayer does. It's a blocked beat there by Leanne Dillman, but that does open up the space for Leo Freed to finish on the near hoop.
Yeah, what a nice little swim move from Leo Freed to get out of the wrap from the chaser as Boston is running the other way. The quick response from Steinberg, his 2nd of the game. Boston just catching New York off guard.
It's crazy because when we talked to the coaches before the game, New York head coach Frank Minson said, we want to up the pace. Tom DeMuth, the head coach of Boston, said, we want to make sure we're keeping them under control pace-wise. It is Boston running New York off the field right now at 9-4.
Yeah, I mean, we really shouldn't have been surprised. For so many years, the Boston program has excelled when they play fast. They feel good, they're confident, and they're doing that today. And it's paying dividends.
Freed gets tackled there, and there's still a pileup. The Boston keeper can't be beat out of this situation. It finally comes to it, but we also have a player down on the far side in Morgan Bertram, and then also Tyler Beckman down on the near side.
I hope they're both all right. This has been an exciting game so far today. Wouldn't want to see any injuries that are too serious. We have 90-40 right now with the Boston Forge in the lead, as it looks like Morgan Bertram is getting off and walking off on her own power. What does New York need to do, in your view, to get back in the game?
I think they need to get John Jackson back into this game. I think they need to turn the tide a bit in the beating game. They're getting at best break-evens and at worst getting run off the pitch at times. I don't know if that's going to, Devin Lee getting back in the game or what it's going to take exactly. But it's going to be interesting to see how and what they can do. They've already used their timeout. They've used their only real big momentum shifting power. You only get one team timeout in quad ball. As we see another transition opportunity, Tyler Beckman running through. No bludgers. Kellen Cupid's being pressured by Kieran Collier. And the pass over to Skur. It is bludger control with New York. So can they settle down and get a defensive stop without losing bludger control? Phil Kane eats a beat from Leanne Dillman. Does throw back but is going to lose bludger control. Meanwhile, the ball gets driven to the hoop, and it's a pass across. Rachel Manhart gets her first goal of the game.
Yeah, 2 bludgers at the start of the possession to no bludgers, and Boston makes no mistake with Manhart with the impressive finish at the hoops.
Yep. So now it is Devin Lee coming in. Alongside him, Vinny Chico, also in the game. His first minutes, I believe. Looking for a new spark. Morello with the ball on the near side. Gets it over to Freed. Devin Lee makes a beat on Collier. Pass back and forth between Potter and Freed. Freed picks it up one-handed. Tries to toss it over to Morello. Can't do it. We're going to get a stoppage on the play.
I think they're going to discuss if the quaffle was handled after a beat. It's Leo Freed in possession near half pitch. Boston has one beater, has Kieran Collier in possession of one bludger. The other is all the way behind the hoops.
Yep, so they are going to turn Collier's ball over to Chico. I guess they probably must have had Collier beat somewhere in the sequence.
And this is now going to be a no bludgers opportunity with a huge window for Leo Freed and the New York Titans.
Yeah, standing in front of him, though, a couple strong players, including Beckman and Peter Lawrence. Freed's just going to let Eric Paguado work on the far side. Tries to get around Beckman. Takes the beat from Dillman across to Potter. Potter lofts one, can't get it all the way to Freed. Picked off by Peter Lawrence. Peter Lawrence is not going to be able to break here. Will have to slow it down. Smart decision by them.
Yeah, wise decision coming after the strong defensive play.
But then Devin Lee makes a smart play coming at Beckman from the back side of the field with Chico in front of him, so the only thing he could do is throw it away. Anything else could have resulted in a quick goal the other way.
Yeah, and Leon Dillman, the Boston beater with a bludger, just not quite in the play yet as she was recovering the third bludger. Ian Skura and the Boston offense has to be more aware of where their beaters are on offense.
Yeah, and Mike Lee and John Jackson now into the game. This is their the veteran line, the line they want to get him back in. Mike Lee fakes Beckman out of his shoes. Old teammates in the RPI program. Beckman, though, gets his revenge with a wrap that forces the shot under the hoop.
Yeah, great play by Beckman, a player who can make such strong wraps on defense, although I think he is going to be assessed a card for the play.
Yep, Beckman's going to the box for contact from behind. One of the illegal ways you can tackle somebody is initiating your contact from behind. There are some exceptions to the rule, but we won't get into all those. Suffice to say, Beckman gets the yellow card, going to the box for a full minute or until New York scores, very similar to hockey in that regard. Mike Lee patiently takes his time, puts it through the open hoop, 10-5. Slowly, New York now trying to climb back into this game.
Yeah, I thought he was looking to shoot right off the reset, but wisely takes a couple of steps, improves the percentage of his shot, and sinks it.
So now it's Ian Skura on the far side, up 5, with Manhart and Beckman now back into the game alongside him. Another press potential opportunity. Serena Montero, though, is going to take bludger control, I believe, off of Devin Lee. Levin Chico alone in the middle of the zone. It's a zip pass. It's a shot. It's a goal. Another one from Ian Skura, 11-5.
Yeah, and that's Skura's third goal here in Game 3, along with Athena Mayer, both on hat tricks for the game as we come back to the booth.
Yeah, another injury stoppage here. Will Andrews goes down, a player that Serena Montero in our interview before the game spoke so highly of. Young player. Played for the Michigan program before coming over to the Boston area a couple years back. First real minutes with the team this year. Been a big contributor to this beater depth. Boston's always been known for the depth of its beating core, its next player up mentality. And we've seen it this weekend. We've seen so many strong performances. Hopefully just Naki's going to be able to get up from. But yeah, either way, you know, his team is making a statement here. 11-5. I don't think anybody had scored more than 8 goals in an opening 20 minutes of this series so far. 11 already here from Boston. Plenty of time to add to it.
Yeah, you're right to highlight the beater depth for Boston because a player like Serena Montero could come in Game 2 after not playing in Game 1 and just make such a huge impact. playing alongside Will Andrews, who is able to walk off now. And it's also, you've seen contributions from a player like Kieran Collier, Leanne Dillman, of course, a longtime fixture with the Boston program, one of their most talented players. This is a beating core with so many weapons.
Yep. So off of that goal and off of that injury, we will get back to the field here with John Jackson in possession, down 6. Head ref Cliff LeComp just making sure everyone is ready to go off of that extended break. And here we go. John Jackson looking to answer, has no bludger opportunity here. Has to get by Beckman first. Does so with the help of a beat. Now has to try to get by Lawrence. Instead goes over to Morella. Morella eats a large tackle there from Lawrence. Everyone piles up. Boston getting the no bludger stop that's been eluding them for a lot of the game. And it just seems like everything is coming up Boston right now.
Yeah, and the pile up with the quaffle will trigger a 10-second count, although Lawrence will come up with the quaffle ultimately. And Boston is now going to go to work against the 2 bludgers of the New York Titans.
Yeah, rugby scrums, or the equivalent of rugby scrums around the quaffle in Quidditch, are broken up within 10 seconds and assigned to the defensive team. As now Devin Lee is just a absolute turret in the middle of the defense, picking up bludger after bludger and tossing it. Ian Skur is now going to get boxed in. He'll be beat out of the play. Pass to Peter Lawrence is dropped, and a kick just goes right over Lindsay Morella. Devin Lee creates another turnover here on the defensive end.
Yeah, so much activity from Devin Lee, who is just all over the pitch. Speaking of all over the pitch, Steve Belitsky, who gets John Jackson from behind in transition, that probably saved a goal.
Yeah, Jackson, a little bit of bad field awareness there. I believe Serena Montero threw it up to Belitsky, and Jackson assumed he had all the space between himself and Montero as Haveline and Shu come back into the game.
Yeah, great to see teamwork from beater pairs. The best beater pairs know how to work with each other as right on cue, Lulu Shu and Max Haveline sub into the game.
Yep, Manhart now with the ball up top. Goes over to Fenning. Fenning had a real nice first shift in this game. Crawford on the field as well, and Doyle behind. A lot of players who play in similar roles on this line right now. It'll be interesting to see how things play out on the offensive end for Boston. Lee fades down as Chico's beat on Zhu goes awry. Crawford now behind, rips one back up to Fenning. Fenning now has a lot of ground in front of him. Fenning tries to drive in. Hoop goes down. I think we may get a stoppage for intentionally knocking over that one.
Yeah, we'll see what the call is. Mike Lee was the player who was stepping up to hit Fenning. That's what we wanted to see, but of course, gotta use physicality within the bounds of the rules. Lee not happy about the call. Will serve his time in the penalty box.
Yeah, another place you can hit along with behind the back, below the knees, also the neck and up is also illegal. So in that case, they said Lee went low, got Fenning below the knees. Fenning now gets to choose anywhere along the keeper's own line, which is 6 yards out from the hoops, to set himself up, and it's going to be a tough stop for Jackson here.
Yeah, he's going to have to get through John Jackson, though, Ryan Fenning. Let's see if he can do it.
Oh, Jackson gets the wrap, but Fenning composes himself, switches the ball the other hand, flips it through the top hoop. 12-5, Boston.
Yeah, just shakes off the tackle. Not many players who can do that. Ryan Fenning, his first goal of the day, calm, cool, and collected, the floater through the top hoop.
Yeah, a lot of good assists early in this game, but finally getting the board here in game 3. Morella bringing the ball up, working behind CJ Jr. and Tate K. K goes aerial, but chooses not to throw. Lee now has the ball. Getting pressed high by Doyle. Boston has settled back from that press that kind of bit them at times in game 1. Jackson has the ball behind, over to Lee. Tate K is beat out of the play, but Lee does have an open lane. Lee goes right through Manhart, finishes. Manhart goes down hard there. As if the goal does stand, it would make it 12-6. Definitely getting to be a scrappy game here down the stretch with so much to play for. I tend to see that kind of be the case.
Yeah, tough to see Manhart go down. Lee making good decisions with the ball, though, driving through the Boston defense, staying composed, ultimately finishing, caught Manhart, I think. But the Titans have brought the lead to 12-6.
Yeah. But a long way to go. And the thing about this scoreline right now is as we slowly approach the 20-minute mark, a catch for Boston would just be so decisive. It's a lead that New York would not have a chance to come back from. So the problem there is that, if they have to focus on the snitch grab just to even get themselves slightly back into the game, Boston gets a few goals and they're just inching closer and closer to the set score. So you can kind of get yourself into a lose-lose situation in the end game if you're not close enough going into it. And that's the situation New York might face if they can't get a couple more stops here.
Yeah, and New York has had the advantage in the seeker game all season on Boston. They have more snitch catches on the year. It's one of the tiebreakers that helps New York out a little bit in the case of a Boston win. But in Game 3, I think you're right. If Boston can find a snitch catch from a player like Tyler Beckman or their veteran seeker, Harry Greenhouse, it might be all done for the Titans in Game 3.
Yeah, so, and to run really quickly through the scenarios here, if New York can come back and win this game, they win the East Division. If Boston does finish this game out, they will have to go finish their last game against Washington, which is currently almost knotted up. I think Boston's up 10 points in a suspended game. A win there for Boston would win them the division. A loss there would create a three-way tie, which would probably put Boston at the bottom of the heap, and end up with Washington and New York kind of comparing snitch catch records to decide who gets there. So New York, even if they lose this game, could really, really need to catch the snitch.
Yeah, the division is on the line, and Kellen Cupid, who we talked to after last game, knows the scenarios, knows how important a snitch catch could be. I saw him on the sidelines with the Seeker headband. He's sitting at the far end of the bench now. He'll be ready, knowing, even if the Titans are behind, how much it could mean for New York to get the division title.
Yeah, for sure. And we're about to get started. Rachel Manhart's able to walk off on her own power.
And Taylor Crawford driving up the pitch now. Tries to stiff arm Morella, but brought down by Lee.
And Smiley with the wrap. Gets wrapped up there. That's the kind of stop that New York needed there.
Absolutely. And it's the tackling around the hoops coming up large for the Titans. This is something that they have historically done very well with players like John Jackson, Taylor Crawford, formerly on the Titans program. But it's within the DNA of the New York side and passed down to a player like Mike Lee, who's certainly slotting into the role and looking to replace a lot of the physicality that Taylor Crawford has brought in years past.
Yeah, refs, another stoppage here. This is the kind of game you get, when there's so much at stake, a bit of a more, choppy game, more stoppages, more things to discuss. In this case, there's going to be no call there by Chris Lecomte, so we're going to get right back started. John Jackson does get to hold on the ball, and New York does get a much-needed stop and a chance to get back within 5.
Yeah, and the Boston bench trying to hype up the crowd, get a little chant going, keep their spirits high, and maintain their momentum heading into the end game.
All right, John Jackson bringing it down the near side. CJ Jr. accompanying him in front of him. Max Haveline considered, CJ Jr. that was going to go off broom. That's really unfortunate. It's going to allow a press opportunity. Shu beats out Jackson, but now Morella suddenly has a no-budget opportunity. Not much of a shot there against 2-2 zone. Max Haveline is not real life.
What a beat from Max Haveline, and it's going to create a goal-scoring opportunity for Ryan Fenning the other way, and it is good.
If you want to know what beating at the highest level looks like, it is that beat that most people would never even consider trying. And Max Haveline to have the confidence to make that one.
Yeah, and he knew there was a third bludger waiting for him on the sideline, too, because of the mistake from Junior just losing handle of his broom and Mullins losing the exchange at the same time. An unfortunate break for the Titans, potentially leading to the goal for the Boston Forge.
Yeah, and you got to love how into it the crowd is as well. The recognition of just how impressive that Max Haveline beat is. A lot of times beaters do incredible things and they don't get the credit for it because everyone's watching the quaffle game. That happened right in front of everybody.
Yeah, everybody's watching Max Haveline here in Boston. They know what he can bring on the
Haveline
field.
wins another exchange with CJ Jr. and the shot gets tapped up. Zach Armitage can't come down with it. Shu is getting rid of Tessa Mullins. It's no bludgers the other way. This game could get out of hand. Fenning gets around, but the pass is knocked down. It's Taylor Crawford and Zach Armitage scrumming for it. Goes over to Fenning, still no bludgers. Fenning to the hoops, wrapped by Jackson, floats one. Morella falls on it. Another big stop there by Jackson.
Yeah, the physicality for the Titans holding up against Boston in a no-bludger situation, standing tall, and Morella recovers the quaffle. That's a big defensive stop for the Titans. They're going to need a lot more of that heading into snitch on pitch.
Yep. So, as we tick ever closer to the 20-minute mark, John Jackson bringing the ball up. It is a 7-goal lead. This is so much larger of a lead than we've seen at any point in this series.
Yeah, these teams have been neck and neck, but Boston has opened a lead, and New York has not been able to respond yet. They have Tessa Mullins back in the game, hasn't played much. Let's see what she can do. Lost a couple of exchanges, but with a bludger in hand now.
Yeah, Max Haveline and Aaron Mccready now the beating pair for Boston. One is going to be playing for Team USA, one for Team Canada in a showcase next week. But for now, they're teammates. Armin Trading gets it across to John Jackson.
And Mullins just recovered bludger control for her beating partner, Junior.
Yeah, big play because this comeback is going to have to start with a snitch grab. And bludger control right before 20 can make a big difference. A pass is knocked down. Ian Skura gets stopped by the 20-minute timeout, but rest assured he is going to score a goal when we come out of it. And that honestly might work to his advantage because now that goal counts towards the set score.
That's true. You're exactly right. The set score will be 190 for the Boston Forge and the New York Titans as we come up on the final moments of Game 3. And Boston is getting the crowd involved. You love to see it here.
Yeah, Peter Lawrence leading those chants. And just another reminder of how the end game works here in MLQ. So the set score is based on 6 points higher than the leading team. So as you said, 130 means 160 as 190, sorry, as the winning score. Teams continue to play with the only caveat being the addition of the snitch, a neutral official who has a yellow flag on his back. A catch is worth 3 goals, 35 points, and outside of that, the game continues normally. What we've seen is a lot of play around the snitch so far this series, a lot of focus on it, with both these teams having solid seekers that can deliver at any moment.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the beating around the snitch is so important. You saw New York take advantage of the bludger control that they held in Game 2, especially with Tate K on the pitch, just allowing no chances for the Boston Seekers. Let's see if the Titans beaters can replicate that performance in Game 3.
And reminder that in a three-way tie, which is very much in play if Boston wins this game, the first tiebreaker is snitch catch record. So the mini game of who catches this snitch, even if it doesn't affect the result of this game, could prove decisive in the season standings.
That's absolutely right. And you're seeing Tyler Beckman check into the seeking box for the Boston Forge. Beckman, who caught in Game 1, going head-to-head with Kellen Cupid, who caught in Game 2. It's a rubber match in the Seeker Game 2.
Yeah, you'll have to see it. 2 of the up-and-coming stars of the Seeker game. As you mentioned, Beckman, the 2019 MLQ Championship winning grab. Kellen Cupid, no stranger to big grabs in his own right. Christian Barnes, our snitch, about to get us started. Well, as we said, Skura's probably going to get them within 5 goals of winning this series right off the bat because he has a lot of open room in front of him. He does have CJ Jr., who could choose to make a defensive play if he chose.
Yeah, let's see if Crawford tries to use himself as a shield for Lawrence and run with him. It looks like what he's thinking.
Yeah, Skura takes off. Crawford trying to block the beat. Skura, though, lets it off early, never gives CJ Jr. the chance, puts it through, and it is 140 to 60. 5 more goals needed for Boston. They might get the first chance at one here. Kellen Cupid forced to play defensive as Beckman got there first. Tessa Mullins clears. Kellen Cupid now going to get his first shot. Delivered in game 2. Can he deliver here again in game 3? All the time in the world, Boston is choosing to play the quaffle game.
Yeah, and that's the 4th goal for Skura as Cupid comes up with the grab.
Yep. And, you know, a good seeker like that, Boston basically chose to give up that grab. Kellen Cupid is too good to give infinite time. When they chose not to put any beaters in the seeker game, they chose to give up those 3 points. Here's the logic from a Boston side. The only way you allow them back into this game is by suddenly changing something in the quaffle game that allows them to run up a bunch of goals. 3 goals, basically the equivalent to the snitch grab, only gets them within 5 minutes. And, with 5 points. Whereas, you know, if things got more interesting, a bunch of goals got scored, suddenly it gets a lot closer. Now it is Boston needing 5 goals to win this series and New York needing 10.
Yeah, and Boston is going to be confident in their quaffle game with the way that they've been playing here in the 3rd match of our series today. They have opened up a large lead for a reason, and they're going to go back to the same formula that's worked for them so far.
John Jackson in the lane. His floater just can't fall. That is an away team bounce. That is no home field bounce there for sure.
Yeah, tough luck for Jackson on the road, just not trickling through the hoops. And Greenhouse, with the green headband at keeper for Boston now, is going to go to work on offense.
And here's the thing. We got a lot of game left to play, and we've seen New York go on runs in this series if they can get things right in the beater game. Greenhouse now has the ball up top. Lindsay Morella stepping high. Kieran Collier beats her. Skura is now on the edge of the keeper zone, gets all the way to the hoops. Nobody ever thought to block the near hoop. Ian Skura is too good of a scorer for that. That is 5 for Ian Skura in this deciding game.
Yeah, and the Titans are not going to be able to go on a run if they're leaving the small hoop open for Ian Skura. He's going to hit that 9 times out of 10. Just an incredibly accurate shooter. That's his 5th goal of the day.
Yep. Pass behind back to Mike Lee. Mike Lee does slip through, but then has to just pass it back up to John Jackson, as once again, bludgers just aren't in the picture for New York. Tate K subbing in. Tessa Mullins has the only bludger here for New York, but Leanne Dillman makes the block. Pass goes over to Morella. Morella zips one to Yanko. I just want to highlight what Morella did there. She stared down that entire defense, got them completely flat-footed, never for a second gave the idea she was making that pass to Yanko. That gave Yanko the time to finish that hoop.
And that's the respect that Lindsay Morella has earned as a ball carrier and as a player who drives. She freezes the defense and picks out the perfect pass to Yanko for the goal.
Skura passing across here to Greenhouse. Still needs 4 more goals here for Boston, 9 more for New York. Skura fakes off here. Kieran Collins. Oh, Ian Skura gets his own teammates beat. That doesn't send you back to your hoops, but he did drop the ball. Luckily, Harry Greenhouse was the only one there to pick it up. Yanko pressing high here on Skura. Patience now from Boston, knowing they only need a few more goals. Skura trying to fake past Yanko. Collier alongside him. Pass goes back across to Greenhouse. Greenhouse fakes the shot this time. It's Kay forcing these chasers far enough out to not allow them a shot. Tessa Mullins gets beat out. Skura now has on the wing, not his usual position. It's a screen from Mayer. Skura considers a shot. No, goes across to Greenhouse. Greenhouse has a chance in the lane. John Jackson, the long arms, keeps Greenhouse from wanting to think about a shot. He just sends it back to Skura. Really quiet, composed action here on all sides. Not sure if that was a shot or a pass from Skura. Either way, Zach Doyle picks it up.
Yeah, Greenhouse might have had a window here, but Boston is really waiting for their best chance, trying to work an advantage in the beater game as they get bludgers on the ground here.
Mayer's shot misses. It's a loose ball. Greenhouse wins the 50-50. We've seen a lot of that here in New York. Lindsay Morella not able to get there.
And Boston still with possession. This is one of the longer half courts in the series so far today. Let's see if they can come away with a goal.
Yep. Doyle tries I think he thought it was a pass to Greenhouse. I thought Greenhouse thought he didn't want to get in the way of the shot. Either way, that very, very long offensive position ends in nothing.
Yeah, tough for Boston to come up empty-handed, but they're going to trust their process and the way that they are looking to pick apart a defense. They are thinking the game at a high level and ultimately just waiting for the results to show on the board.
As a Philly sports fan, you're brave to use that reference right there. Jack.
Trust the process forever.
John Jackson over to Lindsey Morella. Back up to Jackson. Calm, composed play. I think we're going to see a lot more of that down the stretch here. Every goal is so important in this game. Morella bringing it down the far side behind Kay. Nobody stepping out to her yet. She hasn't chosen to come in, though. Now it's Carson Olazaba finally going. Kay makes another tap beat. Morella gets it behind to Lee. Lee tries to flip it up to Minson, but Minson went to the front of the hoop. Lee was looking to the back of the hoop. John Jackson looking to stop the fast break. Carson Olazaba gets right off of him. Olazaba goes the whole way. Minson, though, returns the favor, is able to affect the shot.
What a hit from Minson, the smaller player, at least in terms of height, matching up with Olazaba, who had gathered ahead of steam, and Minson stripping the quaffle and forcing the turnover for the Titans. Outstanding from the head coach of the Titans program.
Yep. And if you're watching us here on CBS, we are going to be switching over to the Revs game in just a minute or two, but you can continue to watch the end here of Game 3 on the MLQ Network on YouTube, and we really would love to see you go over there and check it out. As Frank Minson's looking to get New York ever closer, got around Mayer, could not get around Skura, does get the ball up to Jackson. Minson to Jackson, coach to coach, 15-11. New York just easing their way back into this game.
Yeah, it's a 4-goal game now, and really nice pump fakes from John Jackson. This is getting to the point where Boston is going to start feeling uncomfortable. You see how patient they've been on offense. At what point are you too patient and too slow and getting away from the type of fast-paced quad ball that you have excelled at so far?
Jordan Smiley now in the game. Max Haveline and Lewis Shue, the dominant beater pair for Boston, also now back going up against Tate Kay and Kerry Donnelly. They also have bludger control, Boston. A long beat there by Haveline takes Donnelly out of the play. No bludgers. Looks good to Skura, who thought he made his shot. Didn't. Then John Jackson with the legal goaltend as a keeper flying through that hoop to knock down the comeback shot. New York gets another stop.
Yeah, keepers with the green headband, unlike chasers with the white headband, can reach through the hoops to block an oncoming shot. Jackson, with the knowledge of the rules, to deny the chance for Boston there.
Frank Minson, the head coach, now organizing his team from behind the hoops. Jackson over to Morella.
Yeah, this is the coaching line for the Titans. Jackson, Morella, and Minson all on the pitch together. Let's see if their collective smarts, along with Michael Lee, can break down Boston's defense.
Yeah, if you watch Cuts with Cupid, Mike Lee also jokingly called a coach of this team. Now it's Frank Minson with the ball behind. That's another goal for New York. It is 15-12.
We have a 3-goal game here. Something is happening. I can feel the crowd behind me getting a little restless.
Harry Greenhouse takes a long shot. John Jackson's in the lane. It's another stop.
And New York is starting everything on the defensive end with how they are hitting around the hoops, and now they're looking to run.
Yep, and it's New York with bludger control, and it's Minson missing the shot. That really could have been that momentum push there for a second.
Yeah.
They could have gotten one more there. I think Boston might have had to go to their timeout at that point.
Yeah, Minson wanted it. I think it was the right decision. The hoop was open, just not quite executed, as Ian Skura comes back on the other end and hits his 6th goal of the game to lead all scorers. When Boston has needed someone to step up, it has been Ian Skura today.
Yeah, he subs out there with a full half dozen, and what a change that is. Minson's shot to get within 2 doesn't go, and just like that, Skura makes to put him back up 4. John Jackson also needs to take a breather out of the game in exchange for the younger Leo Fried. A talent for sure, but not the veteran presence that John Jackson offers this team.
Yeah, let's see what Leo Fried can bring to the game. He's certainly a player who is difficult to tackle as Boston throws some of their more physical players on the field in Taylor Crawford. Let's see how Freed can match up.
Yeah, Johnson now has the ball. It's in a relentless press there by Haveline, but Lindsay Morella is able to avoid even using the reset. Really well done by New York here, and I think they're finally going to end up getting possibly bludger control. Yes, Max Haveline tries another long one. While it doesn't hit, it's enough to affect Michael Johnson that he has to dodge. Andrew Steinberg then comes up with the stop.
Yeah, what a tackle from Steinberg, and another very ambitious beat from Haveline that just barely missed. Would have been just another highlight reel play from the Team USA beater for the Forge.
So Boston only needs 3 more now.
It's a beating pair of Serena Montero and Erin Mccready working together now. Montero, the engaged beater, and Mccready more of the free beater or the back beater.
Steinberg has the ball behind, quieter in this game, but it's been making his presence felt in the last few. Slips by Johnson there, looks for a passing option, finally just takes a safe one back to Crawford. Crawford considering Olazaba, rips one across the Lawrence. Lindsay Morella says, not today. And now she's running in transition, gets the ball over to Yanko. Yanko misses the shot!
Oh, how did he miss that one? Coming up on the goal and just point blank misses the dunk. Boston will feel they got away with one there.
Meanwhile, Devin Lee is taking over the game again against this pair of Mccready and Montero. Oh, the backhanded beat on Mccready, and then he takes the ball off Montero. No bunches the other way. Another chance for New York here. Olazaba, another big hit. And now Devin Lee's going to try to break it up, but Mccready has the tackle, and then Serena Montero has the beat. Tessa Mullins does eventually help clean this up. It's an absolute scrum. I don't know how none of these Quaffle players have been beat at this point, to be honest.
Yeah, that is an enormous wrap from Carson Olazaba to stop the Titans on the fast break. The beaters, there's so much going on that they can't even get over to the scrum of chasers, and we'll see ultimately where the Quaffle goes on this play. But Johnston just slowed in transition and unable to find Lindsay Morella, who's camped out on the near side hoop.
Yeah, I do want to highlight that even if this comeback effort fails, Lindsay Morella is doing everything on this pitch right now. If you want to know why she is considered one of the best in the entire sport, this game is just a showcase of it. The way she's getting into passing lanes on the defensive end, she's making hits on the defensive end. We are getting a foul laid out here. Her confidence with the ball in hand and her ability to pick out teammates, she can just do so many things so well.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Just the model of an all-around player in quad ball, can do a little bit of everything, can do a lot of everything, and whether it's scoring, whether it's finding the right time to use the reset, whether it's finding the right time not to use the reset and to push against a press, Morella, just one of the best decision makers there we have in the sport.
So Haveline, I believe, might have picked up a card there. No, sorry, it's Erin Mccready who picks up the card, which means it's going to be Michael Johnson's ball. And as long as he can freely pass the ball, I think he's going to have a very, very free assist to Lindsay Morella.
Yeah, I think that's right. Mccready, I believe, given the card for a high contact.
Yeah, that hit we saw in Devin Lee right before that scrum formed up.
And Boston trying to get the crowd back into the game. That's been a formula for success for them today.
Oh, Johnston chooses not to start his arm high, tries to go low. Andrew Steinberg just meets him again, and New York is just missing their opportunities right now.
Yeah, that's a mistake from Johnston. He's got to know how well Steinberg has played and what Steinberg brings defensively. He is not a player who you can drive through.
No.
And Steinberg makes him pay.
Right. What Johnston did have an advantage was height, and if he had gotten up and done a jump pass, I think the pass to Morella would have been there. Meanwhile, Take pressing, it is still a beater power play, which is so hard to play offense or defense with. Olazaba does get beat. His pass is to nobody in particular. Johnson trying to get the ball. Kay and Mullins are now just beating out every single Boston player. So Yanko's going to pick it up. This time he will not miss. And that's why a beater power play in quad ball is just so crazy.
Wow, yeah. Tate K and Tessa Mullins, a pair that we've never seen before today, with Tate K making his debut for the Titans, single-handedly creating the goal for Yanko in transition.
Yep, so now Belitsky and Dillman come onto the field together. They play a lot together in the club game. Haven't played it all together today. It's going to be Mayer, who's had a beautiful game 3, who has the ball, throws to Crawford, though, and I think Yanko is headed to the box for that tackle.
Yeah, and that's a costly penalty. Not quite as bad as a beater penalty for the Titans, but they have pulled within 3 goals. Again, it's 160 to 130, and if the Titans can kill the power play and get the quaffle back, they will have an opportunity to get the lead down to only 2 goals.
Yep, Crawford walking the ball in here. Belitsky leading. A big beat there on K. Lawrence is in the lane, finds Steinberg, but it's Leo Freed with the big hit, but it's Steinberg getting the ball off to Lawrence, and Lawrence finishing.
So composed with the ball is Andrew Steinberg. He's on the ground, but able to find Peter Lawrence, and Lawrence is able to score. Great teamwork from the Forge to put themselves in positions to help each other on offense.
New York bringing the ball up here. They don't just need goals at this point. They also need defensive stops. Boston only needs 2 more goals to win the series. Exchanges here. Balls are all over the ground. Leanne Dillman gets to press. Ball goes behind the lead. There's crashing bludgers now. Belitsky and then Dillman as well. That quaffle doesn't go to anybody in particular, and I think it's going to turn back over to Boston. Big play there by Belitsky and Dillman.
Yeah, great play from the Boston Beaters, who, you're right, we haven't seen play together, I believe, since the first series against the Charlotte Aviators, and it throws off the coaching line of the New York Titans, who had just subbed back into the game, Jackson, Minson, Lee, and Morella. Not an easy group to phase, but Belitsky and Dillman able to accomplish the task on defense.
Yeah, so now needing 2 more goals. Crawford steps up and gets across to Lawrence. Lawrence on the near side. No pressure on him yet. It's still bludger control with Dillman and Belitsky, but Belitsky had to go back to retrieve his, so only the 1 bludger on the offense. Steinberg gets the ball, working on Morella, tries to fake past her. Mullins closes all the way down. That is going to be a brief no bludger situation. They're not going to pay for it. They also have the advantage of a hoop down, the near hoop on your screen here, as Crawford just settles it down, letting his beaters get deeper into the play.
Yeah, Boston with Steinberg out of the play, just not quite taking the no bludgers opportunity. It's Mayer now.
What a composed finish from Athena Mayer, her 4th. Not many players can stay composed with John Jackson bearing down on them, and she properly reads that he went for the block, not the hit, draws him up in the air with a pump fake, gets it around him, and it is game point. It is series point for the Boston Forge.
Yeah, it's been the Athena Mayer show in Game 3, just making so many plays in tight spaces around the hoops as the goal is going to stand, and Boston is within striking distance of the victory to stay alive for the division title now.
Yep, New York bringing it down. They need goals, they need stops. It probably all starts with needing bludger control. They haven't gotten it in a few possessions. Tate K and Kerry Donnelly, now the combo, going up against Belitsky and Dillman, who have been relentless since coming into the game. Kay beats out Steinberg. Jackson gets it behind to Minson. Minson's going to take a shot. Minson's shot hits off the T-bar and down. The T-bar, the best defender in Quidditch, gets another block.
Yeah, and so many shots for the Titans today, just not quite hitting as Boston runs on the fast break.
Steinberg down the other side. Steinberg for the win. We are going to have to discuss this one really quickly, but if there's no foul on the play, Boston has come back and taken their revenge on New York, taking the series win, and they will be about 4 goals against Washington away from taking back the division title as well.
What a huge play, and fitting that it's Andrew Steinberg finishing the play. The Boston bench puts their hands up, hoping for the goal to be good, finding the chances in transition.
And that will do it. The Boston Forge defend their home turf. Andrew Steinberg, Athena Mayer, 2 players having absolutely huge weekends. They get the results. They get the wins. Boston now controls their own destiny. They will travel to New Jersey. They will finish a suspended game against Washington, and if they can win that game, they will be East Division champions.
Yeah, that's right. And they're going to need some of their younger players who stepped up today. Athena Mayer with 4 goals in the decisive Game 3. Andrew Steinberg with 3 in Game 3. Just goal-scoring output coming up and down the roster from places that they haven't necessarily gotten it in past series, where they've been more reliant on a player like Zach Doyle. But today, it's others stepping up for the Forge. Just a really impressive performance from Boston.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to try to get one last interview, I think, with Athena Mayer. I think she is the person of the hour, the one we need to reach out to. So we're going to throw out one more time, one more interview, and then we'll sign off. But the Boston Forge getting their revenge on the New York Titans. They lose Game 1. They come back with they win Game 1 and Game 3 to take the 2-1 series win and keep their East Division hopes alive. We'll be right back.